we on and popping.
Yes.
Like locking. What's happening, y'all? It's just Shut Up and Ride show. Three's the crowd. You know, we got two present and one coming on in a little bit via satellite.
That's right.
You know, that's Miss Fenty. She getting ready for a Miss Corporate contest that's coming up.
That's right.
You know, so
just in time for her Juneteenth.
Right.
Happy Juneteenth, y'all.
Yeah, happy Juneteenth.
It's definitely here. We in the
Indeed.
teens. Last day of those teens is tomorrow.
Right on.
And so we celebrate. So
Yep. What's going on, sister? Long time no see.
I know, brother. Last time we didn't even do it last week, did we?
Done the last couple of weeks. People been missing us.
Really? We didn't do it 2 weeks?
Yeah, it's been 2 weeks.
I think I did it. You didn't do it. I did it.
Well, we tried. You know what I'm saying? Well, you know,
maybe that's what it was too. Maybe
I
tried.
had a bad connection because you was out there on the road.
Oh, that's right. That's right. We were on the right.
Yeah, we gave it a shot. But
we got it. We'll get better.
Right.
You know, we keep doing it enough. We get something bound to happen. You know, I spoke to a lot of podcasters this past trip, and let me tell you, they were giving me all kind of little goodies to do and things I should know.
Right.
And I was like, really? I could do that? I could do.
Yeah,
So I'm learning. I just gotta now implement it.
Right.
You know, and be okay with messing up.
Hey.
You know, I always say the only one not making mistakes is one's not doing nothing. And
I almost said something, but I'm gonna try to keep it PG.
Imagine that. I'm imagining. We're gonna see. Y'all heard him. He said, "What'd you say you doing?"
I said, "I'm gonna try to keep it PG."
You know, if you try, you ain't doing that.
Oh, you know.
You trying, you ain't doing.
Hey, I done made the hardest thing everybody thought was gonna be working so far, so I could do damn near anything.
Yeah,
you know,
that's right.
Pretty much anything. I wish I could snap my finger and get a pile of notes up in there. C notes, that is, not car notes and fucking.
I was like, you can get some notes.
Right. Light notes and water notes.
Be real specific.
Rent notes, you know. No, we don't need them type of notes.
That's
right.
You
know, there's some high notes.
Okay, some high notes.
Right.
Gotcha.
But you want to talk about your thing before we get off into a little something serious I wanted to bring up?
Sure. Listen, let's see. And we can always talk about it. I'll jump in when something triggers my brain because sometimes it'll, I'll like, oh yeah, and this, So, many of you, I started my trip with Babes Ride Out, rode up to Narrowsburg, New York. What was that? 1,100 miles, 14 hours, and I had, when I started my trip, I got tired right away because the rain. The rain, the sky opened up. I got to Georgia state line and I had been rained on a lot. So I was just like, let me just start off in the morning.
Right.
And so as I was there in the hotel, getting ready to leave that next morning, I go, I don't have to go all the way to New York. I said, I really like the karaoke that they have at Babes Ride Out. I looked up the itinerary. It said karaoke at 6:30. It was already 7:30 in the morning. And I'm like, I really want to make karaoke. I said, you know what? I'm going to do it.
Right.
1,100 miles, man.
Maybe.
I rode up in there. Scary! At 9:15.
Hand me the mic.
10 minutes later, I was on the stage.
Right.
Man, I sang.
And when you did your song with that lady? Yeah, I caught the end of that.
Listen.
That was all right.
No, that was something else. No, that wasn't even it. She got mad. I said, I had to give her the mic back.
Yeah.
I sounded way better than her.
Yeah,
so
you showed up.
And then people was like, you need to go back. All in front of her I was like, oh, thank you.
Hey, people know what they want to hear.
Oh my gosh. So, but I ride in there and it was so wet and slippery. My bike skid right out. Skid!
Right.
And it fell over. And they were like, oh my God. I was like, hey, the bike fell. I'm good.
Right.
They helped me pick it up.
Like, fuck you. Get
right.
The bike.
Right. I was like, I'm good. The bike, but and 10 minutes later, I'm on stage. And when I tell you it was electricity,
Yeah.
It seemed as many times I've saying, "Give me one reason."
Right.
This time was it was
Something different, huh?
yeah, it was. A matter of fact, the band couldn't quite get it, and I couldn't catch the band. The band couldn't catch. Listen, the crowd was going crazy. We just okay, let's go with like how it
Right,
is,
right, right, right.
and it flowed, and we had a great time. I was
Yeah.
it was about it wasn't as much last year. It was like 600 women.
Right.
This time it was about 350. But we
Okay.
had a great time. I
Yeah.
represented, won the slow roll
Right.
contest for. I even wore the
What
and
is
I have some pictures I want to show online to Iron Elite. They are the ones I have the slow roll belt
right.
from. So when I was doing the slow roll here up in Narrowsburg, New York, I wanted to represent.
Right.
And so, and people are like, well, where'd you get that? And I told them, they said, oh, I'm going to come. And so I
Right.
think when I have some more, and all women
Right.
participants at the slow roll, which I
Yeah.
want.
Yeah, that's gonna be something.
Oh man, listen, it's going to be something. So we
Hey, you
did,
know it's gonna happen.
yeah,
When y'all get through,
yeah,
by the time y'all get through kicking them guys' ass, gonna be like,
yeah.
we should have two different contests, one for the women and one for the men. You know?
That's what's going to happen.
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
They
yeah.
going they gonna want to make it up male one and a female one.
Right,
I'll be like,
right,
no,
right,
no, this is just about
right. It's
motorcycles.
about motorcycles, motherfucker. You gotta shit or get off the ride. Shut
Hey,
the hell up and
it's gonna
ride.
be an
You
awesome
know?
time. I know
Right.
Babes Ride Out is gonna show up
Babes
at
ride out.
Iron Elite
Yeah.
and take and keep this slow roll championship with the women. That's what's
Right.
gonna happen. That's all.
Where's Iron Elite held at?
Jacksonville
Jackson,
in
Florida.
February. Yep.
Oh shit, I'll be up
Yeah,
there to
you'll be
ride
there.
with them.
Listen,
Right.
hey, we got it. We're gonna raise money. We do it. It's 20. I think $50 or if it's 25, it should be 50.
Right.
$50 to go to a great charity, and that's what we're gonna do. We're gonna
That's
open
what's
it up.
up. That's
Um,
what's up.
besides that, I went up there. Of course, I'm writing my book, so I got to spend some time with my publisher
Right.
and talk about write some things, some new strategies, because
Right.
I was at a little dead spot because
A little
it's
writer's block.
well, it's about my life, so it ain't necessarily I know what happened, but it's
Right.
just a little traumatic to go through,
Oh, okay.
And I'm
Okay.
like, okay, I'll get it, and putting it off,
Right.
But so we're right back on the ball, and I'll be finished, I think, in by fall. We'll
Okay.
have a
Cool.
book out,
Cool.
and we did Laconia, which is the 102nd. Laconia is the oldest motorcycle rally.
Oh, really?
Yeah, in New Hampshire.
Okay.
And I ride up there. We did a little meet and greet. Then I we did a ride to Bentley's saloon. Bentley comes down here. He's a Bentley Warren. He's a former race car driver, Indianapolis 500.
Mm-hmm.
You know, he come down on race week. Bentley's saloon is up in Maine, in I say Arendelle, Maine, and so got that, led that ride, rode right in there, and it was about 68 miles, but it take an hour and a half because it's New England,
Whining.
long
Yeah.
windy roads,
Kind of
beautiful
like that
country.
pig trail in Arkansas. You ever rode the pig trail out there in Arkansas?
Um, I don't know if I knew the name or not. I don't
Yeah.
know. I rode a lot of things up in Roger,
Yeah.
Arkansas, that
That's
area.
something. I
Okay.
think it start up in that way and head south,
Okay, so maybe
something
so.
like that. Yeah. I
But
never.
there's a lot of beautiful
Yeah.
riding up
Yeah.
there.
Oh, definitely Northwest Arkansas for sure.
Yes.
A
So
lot of beautiful sights.
there's it. Just it got to stop by my man Sheldon, the philosopher.
Oh yeah.
So he has a philosophy podcast show that he has on Facebook and all. So
Oh,
you're out
okay.
there, brother Sheldon. Blessings to you and all what you do. Keep
Definitely.
going. Thank you for the jewels and the gems that you gave me too. I will be sharing them throughout. So
Right. Right.
who else did I stop? I stopped by Spoke Easy. Spoke Easy is a bike shop. He's
Right.
a guy whom I share the DAM ring. What that is, y'all see that? It's DAM. Stands for Detroit Antique Motorcycle Show.
Awesome.
And I got the Legend ring. And so it's a few people that have the DAM ring, a select few. And so I wanted to make sure I stopped in a few places and just said, hey,
Right.
And
Also, where's that located at?
Smokies was in downtown Charlotte.
Downtown
This
Charlotte.
brother is awesome. He's an architect. His architect firm is on top of his Spokeasy.
Right.
It's got a yard. It's a bar. So next month when I go to homecoming, I'll be stopping in and we'll be doing a
Next
karaoke
time you
bike
go through
night.
Charlotte, let me know. I got some folks there I want you to meet.
Well, they gonna come out
there,
to the Spokeasy then.
I'll let them know.
Yeah, because we're
Let
gonna
me
be doing
know.
karaoke and
Yeah.
I'll be cooking.
Uh-huh.
So we're gonna shut up and eat. This
My
gonna be a
niece
part of the
called
shut
her-
up and eat tour.
My niece, little mama called her YZ. You know, she called me Malcolm X.
Okay.
So she called her YZ because she's a female.
Oh, you
person.
too.
Right.
Oh yeah, definitely gotta meet
XYZ,
them.
you know, yeah, but she's
I like that.
she's a real cool sister. You know, definitely go put you. When I talked to her a couple of months ago, I told her you was out there.
Okay.
Hey, make sure you give her. I didn't know you was going through. I'd have made sure you got in touch with her.
Yeah. So.
Cool sister, you know.
Okay, well I'll see them. They on the list.
Definitely.
So Charlotte, we'll see you next month, around the second week of July.
Okay.
Is the plan there.
Awesome.
And what else? That was it. Rolled in this morning or this afternoon at 2:00. I got here.
Yeah. That's cool.
Yeah, and I'm here,
Cool.
still here, barely hanging, but I'm here.
I was wrapping up my last appointment of the week up at the Mayo Clinic.
Okay.
You know, yeah, that's been only got 2 more appointments left. That's Monday.
That's right, man. You're gonna
Yeah.
live.
It's gonna be about 3 months before they can get me started on the listen, but not
Now, and it's 3 months, then a new heart.
Right. You know, so hopefully by the end of the year, everything will be implanted. You know, and I'll be diving in the ocean
I know that's right.
by January or February.
You gotta wait that long to do I get the
Nah,
incision
you know what I'm
healed.
saying? Right.
Oh.
Probably be longer than that now that I think of it. Depending on whenever I get that thing, I gotta let my chest close up, you know, let it mend. You know,
I
it'll
got
be
you.
all right. Definitely
Look,
gonna be all right.
I had a thought, and I gotta confess, but as I'm riding this motorcycle, and your news come across the chat text that hey, they're gonna give you gonna get you a
Get
new
the
heart.
opportunity, right.
And I'm a donor, donor. I said, man, something happened to me on this road. I said, I wonder if John get my heart. Can I make sure? Can I wheel him my heart? And if he ain't ready, then they can put it in the freezer until.
Right.
Gotta be like, listen, and I tell you, that's what I thought about. Like, dude, I was like, man, okay, I better make it home, man. If I don't,
right. No,
they're gonna see that license and.
Right, you gotta have you around.
Hey, it's just if I ain't, I'm still around. I just ain't in flesh.
There you go. Well, if you ain't up in there, you definitely gonna be around. You know. I had called little sister Sage today to see if she was cooking. She said she ain't gonna be around after about a week or so.
Oh yeah, she gonna be here Saturday and something. That's cool with me.
Right.
She was real kind of rude to her brother.
Cat out the bag. So
no, but she told me last week
that
she moved in with her brother.
Right.
And I was like, okay, good.
Okay, yeah.
But she want to come back to school year and live in the house, and I'm like, oh, we'll talk about it.
Right. Ain't nothing wrong with that.
Ain't nothing wrong with that. I just want her to respect.
Right. Definitely.
You know, she feel I owe her something.
Right. And that's what I wanted to talk about. You know, I wanted because I had quite a few folks said they wanted us to address this topic. You know, because a couple of folks I know, you know, they got grown kids at home, but they're not in school and they're not respected. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you can't
and
have
it's
that.
like, you know, right, and they all got the same common denominator, part-time parent in and out. You know what I'm saying? As they was coming up. You know, so it really was. I don't know. You know, I don't want to. You know.
Well, you're saying they got enablers as parents.
Right. You know, like this one is, you know, this one young lady, you know, son past his 30s. You know what I'm saying? And he's working and whatnot, but he's not contributing. You know what I mean? Not only that, he got his young lady in the house. You know what I'm saying? And on top of that, they're disrespectful. You know. she wanted me to rap with him. You know what I mean? I'm like, I would, but I don't have that type of rapport. You know, even though that's my man, you know, I don't get that type of rapport. And I don't want to, you know, cause no conflict between us. But I think that the father should step in. You know what I mean? You know, and I mean, come on, you know.
What's wrong
So
with the mama just saying it?
she has, but like I say,
Well, then now she got to act.
right, right, right,
If because if they're in her house living, she set certain rules. If they're
right,
not going to apply, then she don't want to put them out in the street. Is that what she feels? She's listen.
right, I mean, and it goes a little deeper than that. I was hoping she'd come on and chime in. I let her know we was about to go get on, so hopefully sometimes she'll chime in, and that way I won't be. You know what I'm saying?
Okay.
She could jump off what she want to talk about, and we can address it like that. You know, but right now I
Mm.
don't want to be the one to speak on the situation
Well,
as a
let's say
man.
her
You know,
situation is not different from a lot of
right? And it's not.
parents.
That's the
You
thing.
know,
It's not.
over and over.
But by me being close to this situation, you know what I mean. And no, I'm talking about this situation. You know,
Well, then maybe she don't want to come on. That way, she ain't putting a business out there.
right,
So we could just talk about it in
right,
general.
right. So let's just hypothetically say that
Yeah.
you in this situation, and and uh, and to me, the worst part about it is that a couple of these women, they got husbands in the house, but they're not speaking up as men. You know what I mean?
Well,
And it's
the
and
man will speak up. The man, a man will speak up. He
she's
not
been at
gonna.
it. She's been at it for quite a while. A couple of them, they've been at it for quite a while, and they can't seem to
It's
get
their
no
children, and
assistance.
it's not the husband's kid. So it sounds like.
Yeah, but
Um,
if this guy pretty much been in this guy's life for the last 20 years, damn near, you know what I mean? At
and
some
why he
point,
can't tell him?
exactly, exactly. This is what I'm saying. But you got this cat there, and he's allowing the disrespect, and then you got the daddy that's not really speaking on it, or I mean, I'm pretty sure she let him know what was going on,
Well,
but
let's say
you
this: you
know,
can't. How to if it's a man and a woman, they're husband and wife, and he's the stepfather, and the mother, you know, she says she's saying things, yes, yeah. If she's saying, say, hey, this is what you got to do. You got to do A, B, and C.
right,
Now, if she wants somebody else to say it and she don't say it, or let's say that she said it to him already and nothing's done,
right,
and now she'll get the husband to do it and then still nothing done.
right.
And so why do you think? Why does she think you saying something's going to be done? Because
Well,
when
you know what I'm saying. I just well, let me let's say, even though I mean, I guess the reason she asked because I'm the elder. You know
right,
what I'm saying,
but I don't think nobody's.
and I'm respected. You know what I'm saying. I must say, you know what I'm saying, that young man do respect me, but
It's
I
still her
haven't been
house.
around him like that to at least address it from afar. Now, if I was up there in a situation, I could take the time to sit down. You know what I mean, and try to rap with the young man. You know,
But you
but
ain't
I
got
don't
to
feel that's
rap to
something to
him
do
to say.
over a phone.
But
You
you
know
ain't
what I'm
got to rap to
saying?
him and say, "Hey, listen, man. You're an adult. You got your woman there. It's time for you to move from out of your mama's house.
Right,
You that's it.
right,
Your parents said they've told you already.
right,
Okay, how long is going to take you? You got to go out and be a man. How
right,
can you provide? How you have a whole person you're responsible for, and you can't be responsible for yourself?
right,
Just keep them accountable and hold them accountable. But sometimes parents don't want to stick to that. They want because they end up using them for other things that they need.
right,
So they end up, oh well, yeah, he take out this or do that. No, you just got to do it.
right,
Don't let them do nothing else. Hey, see you behind out.
right, right,
But it's
right.
hard. It is hard, but it's they'll still enable him, even though you go and say something. You'll end up damaging your relationship with him
That's what I was trying
just
to
for
say.
the same parents enabling him. They got to do the work.
Right.
Can't nobody do it for them?
Right. You know, that's what I was, that's how I put it to it, and trying to avoid. You know what I mean?
Yeah, you
You
ruin y'all
know.
relationship for what?
Right.
Only because they want to put it on somebody, but it's on them. They
Yeah.
got to handle it.
Yeah.
It is what
Yeah.
it is. It's.
Yeah.
I mean, I know as parents, sometimes I have a hard time saying to my kids what it is, and I try to, be soft around the edges. But in the end, or I wait for them to.
To really fuck up.
Oh, yeah, I wait for a certain situation
Right.
because they'll sometimes come to me and say how somebody's doing something, and I'll go, hey, kind of like this here and this here. I said, well, that's kind of our situation. I'll
Right.
turn it on them. I say, well, look at it this way. Put yourself in that situation because ultimately they got to see it. They
Right.
got to see it, but the parents got to help them see it.
Yeah. Yeah.
I mean, it can come real traumatic, like, hey, get out right now,
Yeah.
or listen, we're gonna give you a month.
Yeah. You see what I'm like I said, up north, the laws are different and shit. You know what I'm saying? You got to go through an eviction process and shit.
Same
You
here.
know what I'm saying?
You can't kick nobody out. You gotta. It's about 3 months.
Shit, I didn't have to go through that in Arkansas back in 2010 when I had a situation. I showed the motherfucking cops my lease. And they told that motherfucker, you ain't got 30 days. You got 30 minutes to grab whatever the hell you can, get the hell up out this man's house, and you come back tomorrow and get the rest.
Oh, that's that. Well, that
Yeah.
was that
You
was
know,
that was him doing. That probably him having some good police friends on the force.
yeah,
That probably wasn't done legal, because like I've kind of done that. I've muscled somebody because
right,
I've been like, hey, look, so and so, can you just come by in the car? I can say it. You just stand there. All right.
right, right.
So something, but who knows? Like you said,
Right.
it's all who you
Right, but
know.
now, to open that door, this person was being very disrespectful towards them two cops too. You know what I mean?
Mm.
I told you the story, but I ain't gonna put it out there. You know what I mean? But yeah, man. It was a crazy situation. And some folks think that they got a right to other people's shit. And that's just bad. You know what I mean? That's bad.
I want it. I got it.
Right,
Yeah.
right. You can't make me go nowhere. Come on, man. I can make your ass. You know what I'm saying? I just have to deal with the judge and the jury
Yeah.
after the fact. You know what I'm saying? And you're not worth all of that.
Yeah, I
You
went to
know?
jail kicking somebody out.
Yeah, yeah,
They called on me as I'm kicking them out, and they told me I couldn't. And then come to find out, I had a warrant for my arrest for
right,
failure to appear in court from a speeding ticket, which I paid,
right.
but it didn't show. Man, listen,
I
I
wouldn't.
ain't kicking nobody else out ever again.
I wouldn't.
I be like, oh, you stay, hold on.
Right,
No, I'm sorry.
right. No, it wasn't about the law that I was worried about. I just, it's just one of them situations that, man, you know, it's ways. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah, yeah.
And then, that's why, I tell folks, people always say forgive, forgive, forgive. Yeah, you can forgive, but when you forgive without an apology, without them acknowledging shit, you're gonna end up going through the same shit over and over.
But that's not why you
You
forgive.
know,
You don't
you
forgive
know,
for that. You don't have to be around that person. First of
exactly.
all,
You can forgive.
you can forgive
and
and
not
not
be around that
ever.
individual. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? It's not that you hold a grudge. It's that, man,
Right.
you're tired of going through the same.
You're not gonna
shit.
go through
So
that.
yeah. But when
You can forgive them and from a distance.
right,
Be like,
exactly.
I forgive them so I
Exactly.
can be at peace.
Exactly.
But I'm not necessarily your friend, or a matter of fact, I can be your family member,
Right.
and that's great. We family. I can't do nothing about that. But I'm over here, you over there.
Right.
If I happen to see you and you go, hey,
As long as you cordial,
that's
we can
it.
be cordial. You know what I'm saying?
We can agree to disagree.
Right. There's no room for error though for your ass. You know what I mean? That's
like
what
someone,
that is.
I remember growing up and, as a kid and always forgive, and people kept stepping on me,
Yeah.
And after a while, at 12 years old, in fact, I had some adults violate me,
Right.
as a kid. And I said, well, man, as I'm thinking, I would read the Bible because I said, maybe it's happening to me because I'm not a good person. Maybe I'm a cursed person. Just I was in church a lot, and in Southern Baptist, we're in our last days.
Right, right,
So I
always.
was surprised I made it past high school.
Right,
But and my point was that in that forgive, and we must forgive, I remember getting the logic to me that kind of stopped people from running me over was, well, God didn't forgive the devil. And I said this to my mom, and she goes, "What you mean? God didn't forgive the devil?" I said, "Well, if God had forgave the devil, then we wouldn't have hell.
right,
He'd still be up there in heaven with God,
right,
sitting beside him." That's what the pastor said. And I remember my mom getting kind of mad. Go sit your butt down. Stop acting
right,
like.
right.
But I was just like, well,
You
that
better
mean he
not
didn't
challenge
forgive.
that, Jesus,
I
right? You
wasn't
better.
challenging. I was just saying I felt good because I was just
Right,
like, I ain't gotta forgive you because you did something to me. It's
right,
up to me. And if God didn't forget the devil, then it's up to me.
right.
And boy, at 12 years old, I really I remember, I guess like you said, making people mad, but I didn't know I
Yeah.
was making them mad. I was
Hey,
just
hey.
I knew I didn't have to forgive
Right,
the person that violated me no more. I didn't
right,
have to be in their company.
right.
I didn't have to smile. I didn't have to say hey. I didn't
None
have
of
to
that.
do
None of
any of
that.
that.
Right,
And this was to keep my peace.
right.
So hey, that was at 12 years old. That was the knowledge that came upon me
Yeah,
through reading and there's a time, how you say, the Holy Bible, right? The Holy Two. So there is times we can do a forgive and turn the other cheek and okay, baby, I know, not necessarily forget. We can forgive.
right.
I got to remember so I know, so I
Uh-huh.
learn from it. And then there comes a time when we got an eye for an eye,
Right,
because that's the Holy Two, right?
right, right,
So don't split it.
right.
The Holy Bible, the
To
Holy
to
Bible,
accommodate you. You know what I
right?
mean? Right, right, right.
It be depending
Yeah.
on the case.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. That's why the hypocrisy to me is so easy to pick out. It always has been pretty much. But back in the day, I'm saying, well, the child should be seen and not heard. You know what
Hmm.
I mean? But not Miss Bessie's children.
And they say the truer words come from a child,
Yes, indeed.
or
Yes, and
all the
oh
knowledge
man,
is coming from the
oh
children.
man, I asked those questions that they wasn't used to being asked. You know what
Right,
I'm saying?
right.
It was kind of challenging to them. So
Yeah,
you
especially as
know,
a young kid, you like,
uh,
boy, go sit down somewhere.
yeah, yeah, they go to raise up and all they hear. You better not touch my baby. you know,
Oh
you don't
Lord,
like what he says. Stop talking to him. You know, stop talking to him. You know he ain't no dummy, and you
yeah.
know he ain't gonna be afraid to ask. So
Mm-mm-mm.
yeah, but I was glad that we was never forced to do shit. Like go to church and blah blah blah. So we was led to it. Like I said, I got in touch with some of my sister-in-laws that lived up in Rockford, and I can remember as a kid. I guess because I had broke my leg at about 7 or something. I got hit by a car out there, and my
You
mom,
didn't tell me that you got hit by a car.
oh yeah, when I was a
So
kid,
what's wrong with you,
man,
man?
we was out there hustling at the grocery stores,
Ran
and
across the street without looking.
we was trying to get back to watch the superheroes. Never forget it. So that's how I learned how to tell time.
Yeah.
According to the cartoons. You know
Okay.
what I mean? So it was a group of us.
Yeah.
I lived off of Central and Madison, Maine, two drags on the west side of Chicago. It was a jewel that used to be right there on the southeast corner. And we'd go carry groceries and shit for a nickel, quarter, whatever. You know what I'm saying? We
Yeah.
carry groceries over.
Okay, us.
So right, so we was hustling up on our little snack money for
Yeah.
the damn cartoons. I never forget it. It was January 2nd. It was July 2nd. The summertime because I got hit right before the 4th of July. Um, it was right before we would take the trip up to Michigan to my Aunt Louise's house because her and her husband owned a couple of ice cream trucks. You know what I'm saying? So that was one of our favorite vacation spots. But I'm sitting up now with a broken leg, so I had to miss that trip. You know. Another thing about
How you
that
doing?
was,
You doing okay?
Yes, but I just got out last night.
Well, you just come out of the hospital.
I was the one on the phone talking to you, and I said you weren't gonna remember me until I came back in here.
Oh my God! Go ahead. We're
go
gonna
ahead.
do it. Look, I have an
yeah,
intermission. You carry on.
so so that particular, believe it or not, I was a slim kid up until I broke that leg and I ended up in that chair. Now I got the weight. My parents brought back they brought back an ice cooler full of ice cream. Since I missed the trip, they, said my uncle and them sent me my own truffle of ice cream. So, and they made sure nobody ate that shit but me. So from January to the time I got that cast off, I blew up. You know what I mean? Just laying around eating ice cream. You know what I'm saying? So, but I don't know how we got on that story. But anyway, back to the situation that we was talking about. People, it's important to not try to overcompensate for a missing parent, because when you do that and you don't teach that child, male or female, you know what I'm saying, right from wrong and personal responsibility and whatnot, trying to be overcome because they're missing one parent or the other, it's hard for a kid to develop that sense of independence. And then you end up with a 30-something, 40-something year old, acting like they got claims to your home. You know what I mean? Acting like, you owe them for the rest of their life. And that's not the fact, And then it becomes harder and harder for you to put that foot down, and you have to, unfortunately, it's almost impossible, especially for a mother dealing with a grown son, that is much bigger, much stronger, you know what I'm saying, and just basically outright disrespectful. You end up setting yourself up for an unfair situation later in life, and it's definitely
When you're
unfair,
disrespectful too. You said
when one parent overcompensate for the absence of the other, so they tend not to want to hold a child responsible, for the certain things they need to do growing up, teaching them self-awareness, you know what I'm saying, on responsibility and how to grow into, especially a boy, for a mom to be trying to teach him how to grow into a man. You know what I mean? A lot of people tend to get that mistaken. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, you can raise them up into you can raise them up into an adult, but are you really teaching them what men are supposed to do? You know what I'm saying? You can't do that because for the simple fact you're not a man. You know what I'm saying?
she
And
can teach him as a parent, as a mom who teach boys. I know I teach. I make a joke. It says, what's the difference between boys and girls? I said, well, my girls, I choke them just before the girls pass out. I let go, and then with the boys, I let them pass out.
right.
No, but in saying that, I some people, some parents, what they do, they think they make it easy for their kids.
Right.
But yet, parents who make it easy for their kids, what are they going to be able to handle when they as an adult?
That's what I'm saying.
They ain't gonna handle nothing.
You're not really teaching them.
You ain't right. If you're being soft on them,
right.
That's all they're gonna be able to handle is soft stuff.
Right.
When something hard comes,
and that's why you got so many over emotional men nowadays. You know what I'm saying? Because this became a trend starting in the 80s.
And men are emotional, period. But if you're emotional and you can't handle it,
that's what I'm talking about. Yeah. Everyone has emotions, no doubt. Right. But but as a man, you can't wear your emotions on the sleeve. You know what I'm saying? And especially when you're dealing with your mom.
But you can. That's what I'm saying. You can wear your emotion. But you can't make no decisions in your life. You can't make decisions based on emotions. But like I'm saying, though, but you didn't say decisions. You said I can't wear my emotions.
They're not raised up with the ability to check those emotions. You know what I mean? Like most of them that wear them on their sleeve, that's because they have nowhere to put them.
But you're saying, when you say check emotions, are you saying make decisions? Or are you saying, because like I said, you can be emotional, you can wear it on your sleeve, but you can't make decisions based on your emotions.
Let's take, for instance,
is that what you're saying?
There's this video going on right now. I guess this incident took place last week with this guy and his wife. You know what I'm saying? It was live, and and he talking about how she was cheating on him and blah blah blah, and she said how he cheated, blah blah blah, but she ended up letting out some information that would have got this cat in trouble with some other cats. You know what I'm saying? By saying that he was
He
trying
did
to
it
set
with
them
somebody
up
else.
and blah blah blah.
Mhm.
You know, and dude ended up losing his control on live and killed her on live. And then when he was out roading, when the police pulled up on him, he ended up killing himself. You know, and that all of that was based off emotions.
Yeah,
You
he
know what
made
I'm
an
saying?
emotional decision.
Exactly.
But that's not nothing to do with manhood. That's
It
nothing to
has
do.
everything to do with it.
No, that has everything to do with you have based decisions based on your emotion. Period. Whether you man, woman, to make base decisions based on your emotions is
See what I'm
ill.
saying though.
Ill.
What I'm saying though, if that man was properly guided, you know what I mean?
It won't be based on his
He won't
emotion.
make those
A woman the
decisions
same
like
way.
that, you know. But I don't. I can't address a woman's emotion. I'm a man.
What, but
You know
I'm,
what I'm saying?
but I'm
And I
telling you as
know
far as a
that
woman.
from
If
yeah, but you
anytime,
also trying to tell me as far as a man.
no,
And
I'm
you
telling
can't
you as
do
far
that,
as a human.
you know.
If you base
You
any
know.
your decisions, your life decisions on your emotion, you're gonna be a wreck
Yeah.
because you can't base it just on your emotion. You got to have some logic, some reasoning,
But men
and that's
are
what men and
supposed
women
to
do.
have more control over their emotions.
They are supposed to have
You know what I'm
logic and
saying?
reasoning
You
backing
know.
it. And if you don't have anything backing it, then what are you basing it on? Ill advice, like you say, your emotions, because you're doing it off of instinct. Oh, I'm mad, I'm doing this. Oh, I'm happy, I'm doing this. But how about when it is? You got it, something you got to do. Base it on some reasoning, some logic, and then hey, then you got a decision. But if you only basing it on how you feel, yeah, it's gonna be effed up. It's not gonna end well after you finish feeling
It
that
never
way.
does. It
Right.
never does.
And like you said, no
Never
matter you're a
does.
man or woman, but if you can't do that, then you ain't up into adulthood. You ain't taking care of your responsibility.
Right.
You ain't even taking care of
And I've
yourself.
counseled many 50, 60-year-old adolescents. You
Yeah.
know what I'm saying? They sitting up on the unit still crying about their mama. Or
Did
they,
me
you know what I'm
wrong.
saying? Right,
Ain't
right,
raised
right.
me
You
right.
know,
She
and I
she
could,
abused me.
you know,
Okay. What she
and
do?
and a lot of that could be true. But at the same time,
It
brother,
is
when
true.
do you start dealing with
With
that
what?
yourself?
That's right.
You know what I'm saying? Where does personal responsibility come into play?
Right.
But if you was never taught that or given that skill, you can't display. You know what I'm saying? You can't display what you don't know. You know, I don't care who you think you are. Like it was a couple of gentlemen. They was head of Fortune 500 companies
Mhm.
sitting on the unit.
Mhm.
You know what I mean? But when I talk to them, it's some deep rooted abuse. You know what I'm saying? And a couple of them was you know, so they was product of a Chicago cop. You know what I mean? And they talk about how abusive, you know what I'm saying, this guy was to their mom. You know, so one guy he talked about how this dude would have his mom tied up in the basement. You know what I'm saying? And he would beat him and his siblings on a regular. You know, this is the type of abuse some kids go through that the world don't know about. You know, unless you get a hold of that file. You know, and that file is a lot terrible to read than you know what I'm saying because most of the time they don't open up to everything unless you know it. You know what I'm saying? You know, so they say, well, let's talk about when this here happened. You know, then they'll look and bless you.
Excuse me.
And if they're comfortable enough with you, then they'll proceed with that conversation. You know, but it's hard to convince someone that's been through hell coming up that there's an opportunity for them in this world. You know, and that'd be the hard part. And it's even harder when you know it's just it's just rough out here for children when they're lacking, you know, when they're lacking guidance, when they're lacking that teacher. Not saying it's the single parent's fault, but you know, you got to recognize and you got to provide them with that discipline. That's the main thing is the discipline, you know. And like I said, I grew up with both parents, so I can't exactly tell you what it's like to grow up around a single parent. All I know is what I know from a professional point of view. And 7 out of 10 times it ends up in a rough situation when that child becomes an adult or starts to become into adulthood, whether they're boy or girl, man or woman, you know. You just can't demonstrate skills you don't have. It just don't happen. You know, that's like me trying to go into an operating room and perform a surgery. You know, yeah, I've seen it on TV, but you know, it's just something you can't do. You know, without the training, without the practice. You know, you know, and it's just way too many emotional young men out here in this world today. You know, and a lot of women that don't have that father figure to get them just a simple advice of, hey, when you go to get involved with a young man, ask him about his mom, ask him about his sisters, see how they interact with these women in their lives. And if you see that there's no if you see that there's no respect, you know, they're bad mouthing and blah 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 blah. 9 out of 10 times they would never respect you. They would never show you that respect. They would never show you your worth because they just don't know how. It's just not in them, you know. And not saying that these cats aren't deserving of love, but a lot of women end up in abusive relationships, trying to trying to trying to tolerate and thinking they could teach or change this individual, and you can't do it. It's just not going to happen. They're going to have to end up doing that on their own, and they're going to have to want that for themselves. You know, I wish there was a way that I could get a hold of some comments and whatnot. But, I know there's a few folks that they wanted me to talk about these things, so I'm speaking on it. You know, and you know, it's I don't want to babble or ramble on. You know, talking about the same thing. You know, or being repetitive in my statement, but it's a touchy situation, man, and it's hard for parents, especially when that child become a young adult or hell, when you're in your 30s, to me, you're old adult. You know what I mean? I was taking care of family at 30. You know, so to me personally, there's no excuse for a young man to be 30 years old, sitting in his mom's home, especially if you earn it and you're not contributing. And on top of that, you're being disrespectful. There's no excuse for that, you know. And especially if you got one cat that's your stepfather in the house that either don't want to or don't know how to address it, and then you got a father that's somewhere out there that's just not trying to tell you anything right from wrong. That's not trying to guide you. That's not cool at all. In no sense of, you know, in no way, shape, or form. You know, I could tell you my situation, but I don't want to seem like I'm tooting my horn. But you know, it's just that I realize that I set a proper example for the young men whose lives I came into. You know, and you know because I'm blessed with so many grandchildren, and it's crazy. You know the love I receive from my grandbabies. You know, and I didn't father no child on this planet, but I raised a young lady. You know, and my brothers was pretty much young adults themselves. You know, the oldest one is only 9 years younger than me. You know, like I say, they didn't need a father; they needed an example. You know, and thank God I was raised by the father I had. You know, because he set that example for me to see. You know, and that set that guide for me to follow, and I followed it, and apparently I did a great job because you know, a couple of them cats introduced me to their friends as their old man. And then they was like, you don't look too much older than you. You know, hey, you know, my ex was 10 years older than me. That's why I was blessed. So, you know, until this day, you know, it's nothing but love. Nothing but love. And I was fortunate. I was fortunate, but there's a lot of folks out there that find it hard to step up and be that example or to be that man where the man is missing, you know. And, you know, that's why I always give gratitude to my parents. And, you know, even though they're not here, you know, I still try to carry myself to respect them as if they can still get that call. Hey, John, you know what I'm
That's
saying?
right.
You never wanted to get that call, you know.
And that's
You know,
respect of your parents. That's holding
exactly,
their
you
value,
know,
what they gave you. And your parents were older by the time. I'm certain your
Oh yeah,
parents.
they had me when it was 41 and 45. Mom and
So
pop respectively.
your first siblings, your number one, number two,
Yeah,
always I say we done made them mistakes on them first ones.
right,
We knew
right.
what not to do.
Oh well, they had 11 before they got to me.
So
So
so that you can't you
you
dang near
know.
perfect.
Yeah, well, I wouldn't say that, but close.
Of course you would say.
Right. No,
But
nobody's
but
perfect,
no,
man, in
no.
no way, shape, or form. You
But
know,
hey, I can be though.
but hey, yeah,
You know what perfect is? To do what you know is right and to do it at all the time.
yeah,
No, and is that possible? Sure, it's
yeah.
possible. I
That's
think it's
integrity.
possible.
So that's
You
integrity at
know,
work. You know what I mean? When you're doing things that don't nobody see, but you're doing it the right because you know it's right.
you know it's
You
right.
know,
Always,
yeah,
always.
yeah. And that's you know what I'm saying? It's a beautiful thing in life to be able to pass on knowledge. Like they asked me what I would do when I get rid of this bag and I receive this heart. I said I honestly want to get back into counseling. You know what I mean? And I said, but it's gonna be hard to get placed because I don't have a degree, but I got the years and I got the know-how. But what I
Well, no, then you
this is
going to
what I'm
school.
honestly thinking. No, what this pandemic and especially what my situation has shown me is that you don't have to. I don't want to ruin nobody. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm thinking about going into the workforce or whatever. But as for me, I believe the best thing for me is to try to create something on my own. You know what I'm saying? And earn it independently. Because like through this format,
Hmm.
I believe I could create a format that would draw folks into it. You know what I'm saying? And when I was working, for certain companies, and I come into contact with parents. They all wanted me to counsel their child outside of the thing, but I couldn't do that.
It's a lot of
I wasn't able
mentoring
to do that.
programs around that.
Right. But I don't want to join nobody else's program because what I've also learned by being a professional of situations, 1 week of my notes paid for my entire year's salary from what these folks get. You know what I'm saying?
1 week of your
1 week
notes.
of my notes. You know what I'm saying? Because they're getting paid big money for
Hmm.
these kids and these adults. You know what I'm saying? They write
Hmm.
them notes and they turn it in. It's incredible amount of money that
Hmm.
these places earn. So 1 week of my work pays for my entire year's salary. So that means I'm giving them 53 weeks of major money that they earning. You know what I mean?
Hmm.
Off of my knowledge that they feel that because I don't have a degree, but you still capitalizing as if I got a master and I'm writing these notes and these notes being
Hmm.
approved and you getting your money,
Okay.
then why not pay me? But they're not gonna do that. You know, they're not gonna do that. So I mean,
Well,
why would I want to
counseling.
go to work for someone for $30 an hour when I could get that on my own? You know,
Yeah,
and
for
it's
sure. Hey, I'm with it. So there's a
especially
way to
when they're
do.
not giving
There's a way
health
to do.
insurance nowadays. You know what I'm saying? They constantly screwing people out of their health insurance and whatnot. That's why most people go to work on these jobs. You know what I'm saying? So they can have you know what I'm saying, without paying an arm and a leg for insurance. But now these people are cutting their insurance and they're still not paying them enough to go get their own insurance. So, and with this government that we got going on, they ain't gonna want to insure nobody in a little bit
I think
if we
what the
allow
title
things to
you're
happen.
looking for is not necessarily counselor, perhaps spiritual or mental advisor.
Right,
They
right.
have, so it's about maybe the titling of it, the
Uh-huh.
branding of it. I don't think you can still do the same quote unquote counseling, but called it as an advisor of sort.
Right. And I
And
have to make it clear that I don't
listen,
have these so-called
the
credentials that the
psychic
state
doesn't
requires.
say the psychic is a counselor. They call you 800 number 900. All they are is advising you into your
Right,
future.
right,
It's a psychic.
right,
She ain't have to, he or she ain't got to get no one not license. Okay.
right,
All right. So it's
right.
about how you brand it, how
That's
you want to.
yeah. So
That's
when I
it.
get ready, I'll be talking to folks like you to help
Yeah.
me get this brand out there, you know. And I believe it's gonna be successful.
Hey, know
And
it
it'll be
already.
work. You know what I
Hey,
mean? So I'm not sweating the tip. But first things first, I gotta get through this situation. I see the light. So
that's right.
that's why I'm able
That's
to
right.
move in it. You know, it's a beautiful thing. But yeah, but I would love to get back into encouraging and empowering people. You know what I mean? Because there's a lot of folks out here that just need that. You know what I mean?
We all do.
you know,
We're
you know what
social
it's.
creatures. We need
Uh-huh.
to be amongst each other and sharpen each other.
Yeah,
What's
steel, sharp and
good? What's
steel, you
yeah.
know. And sometimes we got to turn some plastic into pointed objects too,
We
like
got to
they
throw
do in the
plastic.
penitentiary. You know what I'm saying? They
We
just,
just throw plastic.
I said
Okay, you
sometimes we got
lost
to,
me.
I said, some, you know, I said steel, sharp and steel,
Right
but sometimes we got to turn plastic into a sharp object as well,
there, you
you
go.
know.
There you go. Talking about making shapes. That's not what we're
Right.
talking about.
Hey, that's
We're
it.
talking about something that is rigid, that's firm, that is solid. Steel is solid. Ain't no making no plastic.
You
That's
put,
fake.
hey,
Fake
hey.
steel. No,
Tell
we're
that
not
to
talking
them
about that.
cats. Tell
When
that to them cats in the joint.
yeah, well, when you talk about flesh, yeah, but we're not talking about flesh. We talking
Right,
about
right,
supernatural.
right.
Steel sharper than steel. You trying to say you turning that plastic into
Hey,
you'll swear it's steel.
hey, you got
Well,
it.
yeah, the way it's gonna puncture your heart, you dead.
Right, exactly.
Yeah, but that's not what we're talking.
Exactly. You know, I'm talking about some life survival. You know what I mean?
But if you're
And
counseling, you want to get people out of that survival mode. You want to bring them to a natural state. You want to
right,
bring them to
right,
in themselves just of a calming state to where they're even able to make some rational decisions that's
right,
not based on all their fears, all
right,
their heart, all their sadness, all their happiness, but bring them
right.
to a place that hey, this is where you at now. This is what you think
But
about. Yeah, you gotta
it
get
was
there
like I was
naturally.
telling Sherry earlier when we was driving back from Jacksonville. I was, I'm like, hey, imagine counseling a kid and you read this file about how bad they've been treated, how bad they've been abused, and how bad, you know what I'm saying, they never see any justice. You know, they never see their abusers being brought to justice in no type of way.
I
You
never
know,
seen my
you know what I'm
abusers brought to
saying?
justice.
Right. And they get in these facilities, and it's for a person like me to try to convince you that there's still a life for you out there. You know what I'm saying? There's still a way for you to be a prosperous young individual, but you're gonna have to put in twice as much work, sometimes three, four, five times as much work as the average child. You know, because now you got to get through all your abuse and all your mistreatment just to get an understanding of, hey, I could do this, and that is all. You know what I'm saying? It is all but impossible because I must say we have a lot of success stories. At least the gentleman I worked with,
Mhm.
you know what I'm saying, and we have a lot of success stories. Yes, some of them are doing serious time, but it's those young ones that didn't bother to try to work their program. You know what I mean? That's why I hated the phrase when they would tell some kids, "Well, fake it till you make it." No, you can't just turn it off and on. If you're faking it, you're gonna forever be a fake. You know what I mean?
I
You gotta be
disagree.
real. You
I
gotta be real
disagree.
with yourself.
I faked it
You know.
until I've made it.
You
Now
know.
we maybe we're talking about
You
different
didn't hear what I
things.
said.
I heard what you
I said
said. Maybe
about
you mean something different.
70%. You know what I'm saying? You are right, but you want
Amen.
to try to keep that
How you doing?
30%. Hey, how
Wonder,
you
y'all
guys
look
doing?
hungry.
Hey,
All right, yo, you guys on dining or take out? Okay,
awesome.
give them a couple of menus. Yeah.
Yeah. So,
You said
nothing
you
is
said
100%.
you said what are you talking about? Faking it till you're making it
Right.
does work or doesn't it work?
Faking their program for most
Oh,
does
you're talking
not
about
work.
the
You know what I'm
program
saying?
and
You gotta put in the
corrections.
work, right,
That
right,
okay, I
and
got
correct the behavior. You know what I mean? I'm not talking about, you know, maybe what you're saying about, okay, I'm gonna get through. I don't know what you're saying. What
you.
you
I
mean
was
by when you
saying
say you was faking
I
it?
was saying when I'm
I'll let you
faking it to
explain
make
yourself.
it, meaning that like sometimes I didn't want to get up and go to work, but I gotta get up. Like okay,
No, no,
let me get up here and just act like I gotta do this right now.
right,
And I'll get here and I wake up, put a smile on my face, and then next thing you know, hey, I've enjoyed my day. I've gotten through it, so I've kind of just pulled myself up
right,
by
right,
the,
right, right.
didn't want to,
Uh huh.
but had to get up and put on a smiling face. And that was my fate.
Right.
And somebody come in and hey, and I'd have made their day, and I was like, wow.
I'm not talking about that.
Okay, that's what I mean
You're
by
talking about
faking
as
it
an
to make
adult.
it.
I'm talking about as these children trying to deal with their abuse and their situation. You know what I mean? And to try to show them that there is a life out there outside of your abusive home, outside of your abusive and neglectful environment. But as a child, if all the world ever shown you was his butt, you know what I mean, and it wasn't a clean butt, you know what I mean? How do you convince a child that they still have an opportunity? That was the hardest part of the job was to get them to start listening.
Get them out of their
And
environment.
right, and that
That's what
was.
taught me.
But dig, we would have these kids so well in step, you know what I'm saying, throughout the week, and they'll earn their home visit, you know. But like I think I told you before, there's a couple of kids when I walk into that house as their reporter, you know what I'm saying? We got to go in, drop them off and, let them be okay. They were dropped off in
Hmm.
a safe environment. Some of them kids would be so happy about getting to that house until that door opened up and their whole expression changed. And I asked them what's going on, and most of them would be like, that's the son of a bitch that did this, and that to me. Mama's still there with this cat. You know what I'm saying? Or daddy's still there with this woman that has abused this child. So now he got to survive that weekend. Everything we did during that week has been torn down in a weekend, you know, because they're back in that mode. So
Hmm.
now when they come back to us Sunday evening, they're either acting out
Hmm.
or they're just secluding themselves
Hmm.
until someone like myself that they really trust either come on and talk with them, you know what I mean,
Yeah, no, she's
and get them back in the program. But
right.
they don't get back into that mode until Tuesday or Wednesday, and by that time, you don't have enough days in the week to earn your next home visit.
Hmm.
Because as far as because when I was a program specialist, I needed at least 4 days out of the week.
Hmm.
You know what I mean? I understand you got issues, but you
So
know,
this was something
and
they would
that's
do
when
all the
they'll
time.
use that. Yeah, it was like clockwork.
Hmm.
You know,
Did
and
y'all stop taking away? Did y'all just take away the home visits,
we
being that
could,
it was counterproductive?
yeah, but we can't do it permanently. You know what I'm
Hmm.
saying? The only way we could cancel a home visit is if the child is acting out at the facility. You know what I mean? Therefore, if you're not safe here, we can't trust you to be safe out there. You know what I
Gotcha.
mean?
Okay.
So when they put in their work at the facility, then hey, you know what I'm saying, we want to get you home. You know what I'm saying? Because the goal is to get you back to your family, but to get you back there with some coping skills. You know what
Sure.
I mean?
Sure.
And because it's like I said, most of the kids I dealt with had one foot in the grave, one in the penitentiary. You know
Yeah.
what I
Yeah.
mean? And my goal was to keep them out that penitentiary because that was my first job. You know what I'm saying? And I would tell them about the penitentiary, and I would
Right.
tell them, you know what I'm saying, because most cats be out there, a lot of these kids to mislead them. You know what I mean? So they can manipulate them into doing what they want them to do. But I
Yeah.
would tell them, guys, I don't care who it is, your daddy, your uncle, your buddy, your brother, or whatever. If they tell you going to the penitentiary, there's nothing to it. They don't give a damn about you. You know what I mean? They don't give a damn about you because trust me, you do not want to end up in that environment. I don't care how tough you are. You do not want to end up in no penitentiary. Because from my point of view, is that you're volunteering yourself back to slavery. For one, because there's nothing you can do on your own. You got to do whatever them COs tell you to do, and you got to do it right then and there. You know, and it's just not an environment that you want to see a young man or a girl in. So if someone tell you that, oh man, you can do that time on your head, that son of a bitch don't care about you, man. They don't care about you. So that's why I loved what I was doing. I always thought that the phrase was, if you find something you love, you never work a day in your life.
That's
I
it.
used to think that was bullshit until I started counseling. You know what I mean? I found myself there from 7 in the morning to 11 at night, like it wasn't shit to it. And I lived an hour away, you know. But that hour ride was my therapy,
Right.
So
Right.
that's how I separated
Regroup.
home from the job. You know what I'm saying? It was a lot of nights. Girls said my wife would be like, "Boy, so and so must have pissed you off yesterday." I'm like, "What you talking about?" She said, "Cause you was cussing in your sleep."
I can believe that.
Right,
I can
right,
believe
right,
that.
right. So yeah, you know, like this one young lady, she was giving me on my lung test yesterday. You know, and all she said was, "Breathe, breathe." No, no, no. So first you gotta suck in hard, and then you gotta blow. You know, she said, "Blow, blow, 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 blow." And I'm like, "Man, I bet you be saying that in your sleep, don't you?" Because she got to repeat it. She, keep blowing, 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 blowing. And she like, "I don't think so." But I say, "All right, when you get married and somebody laying next to you, they gonna tell you, what the hell are you talking about?"
Only you, John.
Right, right, right.
Only
It
you,
could be
John.
just me. It could be just me, but I doubt it. I doubt it. But yeah, man,
Yeah,
I
counseling. I think just talking to other people, we get better, we get stronger,
yeah,
and we got to have somebody to, or several people to do that with. You know, these days, one of my kids asked me last week, text me and said, "Hey, Ma, you got a counselor I can talk to?" And I mentioned a couple of friends. It's like, "No, I don't want to talk to. They're your friends, or I know them. It's somebody I want to talk to is a stranger."
right,
And I said, "Okay, well, listen, call. I think the 811 is the suicide prevention, but it's counseling session. So you don't necessarily have to be suicidal or homicidal. You can be
right,
just in need to talk to
right,
someone."
right, right,
And so I said, "Hey, well, that's a stranger, and just call it, you know." Then I'll have other local programs that will, you know, you can talk to strangers, because I would do that. I know group counseling as a child growing up in an abusive family or situation, in terms of there was, sexual abuse, and just, I think, just the poverty of abuse
right, 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 right.
of just genetics of hurt people.
Yeah,
So
yeah,
you in
yeah,
that environment, it was times I would run away, and running away to a place that I knew no one, and people would say, "Oh, it's dangerous out in the street." I felt more comfortable in the
yeah,
street.
yeah.
I could go
It's dangerous at
and
home,
sleep. Right.
you know.
I felt
What are you
more
talking
in
about?
control of my environment. If
Right,
nobody, and of course, I had a naive thought thinking, "Oh, well, if they don't know me, they won't hurt me."
right,
Well, that was a little naive, but
right,
thank God, it saved me.
right, right,
But
right, right,
so it's a lot of kids whom, you know if they just get themselves out of the situation, they can recreate something,
yeah,
because you end up in an abusive relation or in a situation, you end up being a great pretender,
right,
a great faker, a great actor, because you know what to say or do to keep your abusers at bay, or to keep them in a good mood
uh-huh,
before anything happens. So you begin to be selfless, just
right,
all what to do to protect,
right. But when you get alone and you get that time alone, that's when you get depressed because you're thinking, when is when will I be able to stop pretending? When will I be able to stand up for myself
You say
and
when being alone.
right, right.
I don't think it
Because you
was
left with
about being
yourself.
alone.
Because you left with yourself and you left thinking about your day. You left thinking about your interactions. You know what I'm saying? And if they're not really in your favor, like you say, you just faking it to
In
to
order to
um,
get into
to
out of
appease
it.
other folks. You know what I'm saying? But if you're not having no real conversations with no
Yeah, you're
one,
not talking to your
how would you?
abusers.
How would you know? It's not about your abusers. It's about just talking to someone. Period. You
No,
know.
that's why I said a group therapy
The
helped
group
me.
therapy has always been the best therapy to me. You
Yes,
know what I'm saying?
because
Because I felt like I got through a lot more of them in the group because they would see that they're not alone. You know what I'm saying?
you're right.
You know what I'm saying? A lot of stuff
It, and,
that
and and
they
you
don't want to
speaking
talk
to them
about.
didn't necessarily get them through it. It was the
Exactly. It
other
was the
people
other.
that
It was the
happened
right.
to.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And that's why we use the thing we call self-govern. You know what I'm saying? We got away from handing out the punishment. we let the kids hand them out to each other. You know, you hold each other accountable, and that was an excellent program. You know what I'm
Right.
saying? Because it's like not only did it make our job easier, you know what I mean? It empowered the children. You
Right.
know, to
That they matter.
you know what I'm saying? Right. You know what I'm
What
saying?
I say matters
And that
was
they could make smart decisions and they could lead in the
right.
right way, you know, because of most of them, I would say all of them we had this thing we called it 12 problems and four thinking errors. You know, I can't remember them all right now
Yeah,
because
I
it's
was
been
gonna say,
such a
don't give me
while
the
since
group
I
home
implemented
therapy.
them.
I know
You know,
the
yeah,
whole project
yeah.
thing.
You know,
I
but
don't like it.
most of them dealt with being easily misled. You know,
Well, we
and
taught yeah. Well,
you know,
like,
no, we're not taught to be. Well, I wasn't taught to be a follower.
and no, I'm not
You know
talking
what I
about
mean?
that. I wasn't saying the
You
follower
know,
in terms of ain't nothing wrong with having a following. If you got a good leader, nothing wrong with
exactly.
following.
But
You
when
know,
you're
in fact,
being
you can't
misled,
even lead unless you know how
you
to
know,
follow.
but if you're being led the right way, it's not being misled. I'm
But I'm
saying
but
being
I'm talking
easily
about the fact
misled.
as a leader,
You
you
know,
can't even be even if you misled, if you don't know how to follow, you can't even be a good leader, is what I'm saying. Even if you misled, but if you followed that person who misled you to the T, yeah, you can still be a great leader once you get the right information. You get what I'm saying?
you know, because if you're being misled there, you allowed to get into a freaking situation that you can't get out of. You know, a
But
lot
you
of these kids are being misled straight into the penitentiary and the graveyard. You know what I mean?
but after a
And
while,
and
nobody makes
one
them
you
do
can't
nothing
come
but
back
them.
from. One you can't come back from. The other you got to be blessed to survive. You know what I mean?
We in America.
You know,
We ain't in a third world country.
shit.
We
Tell
ain't
that
in
to
a
some of
third
our
country.
children. Tell that to some of our
Well,
children.
well, the psyche knows what it knows.
Mhm.
Okay, what a person experiences is true. It's what they experience, and so the trauma that happens to them, they're dealing with it. Whether someone who has experienced their trauma in another way, they still got to deal with it. So they're both traumatized, and the
Uh-huh.
body knows that. I birthed 10 children. I know a girl with one. I don't think my job no harder than hers.
Mhm.
Now people say, no, you got 10, so you're harder. No, she has one. It's hard for her as it's hard for me. We both got a hard job.
Right.
I don't, again, what she experienced and dealt with was hard for her. You can't tell her that wasn't hard for her.
I wouldn't want
And
to.
you,
You
right.
know what
And
I'm
I, and
saying?
I,
Because
and
who am I
somebody
to
couldn't
judge
tell.
your experience?
Right. Well, that's what I
You know.
mean. So the trauma we deal is the trauma we have. Nobody can say this is worse or that's worse. No, we know what we experience individually
Right.
as
I'm
to
talking about
what we're
trying to get
dealing with.
folks to coping skills. You know what I mean? That's what I'm talking about.
But you're saying coping,
Obtaining coping
survival. I
skills,
understand. You're
you
saying
know,
survival mode. I'm saying it's counseling. You should be getting them out of the survival mode, more into their, you know, loving themselves and learning who they are.
once again, you're saying what I'm saying, but in your own words. You know,
Okay.
when you
I'm not disagreeing with
when
you.
you learn proper coping skills, you know what I'm saying? That is part of learning how to deal with self and deal with others. You know, and and it's something that we all have to have. You know, we have to have these different coping skills and how to deal with this situation, that situation. Some situations can't be dealt with kid gloves. You know what I mean?
Mhm.
You know, like I came across this video, it just triggered something in me. This brother had to go up into the school and confront this principal and all their staff, which was Caucasian, because these little black kids kept coming home complaining about how they're being called monkeys and niggers and this and that without no one correcting these kids. You know what I mean? And all I could think about was my first day in school. I told you about it. You know what I'm saying?
Where this
And
happen at?
in Bolingbrook, Illinois, I was
Oh
school
no, I'm
district.
saying the kids. You were
This
just
is
talking.
this is
Oh,
somewhere I don't know exactly where it was
okay.
located at, but this brother went in there demanding that they address the situation,
Mm-hmm.
and I guess the young lady, the mom, one of them was outside the school because the little girl didn't want to go in,
Mm-hmm.
because of how she get talked to, you know. But like I said, you know, your child is being attacked. So for one, teach your child how to defend themselves. You know what I'm saying? I'm like, because for me,
Well, they did right by going to the parents and telling.
yeah,
Especially, well, tried to tell them
Yeah.
at first. I
Yeah.
mean, what is the child supposed to do
but
after
you,
that?
shit,
After they
busting in their
tell?
motherfucking mouth.
No, that's not
Yes,
proper.
you see, that's what I'm saying. It
That's not
worked for
proper.
me. It worked
Okay.
for me. I
I
wasn't
hear
in
you.
school 10 minutes. I'm going to check in the gym. I hear, hey, nigga, get off the mat. You know? I'm like, what? And I hear it again. I'm like, I can't believe these kids letting these folks talk to them like that. Come to find out, this little dumb son of a bitch talking to me. He come pull me by my arm. All he got was 8 out his mouth. I bust this shit wide open. He's spewing blood out. You know, they come asking me, well, I'm like, what the hell is going on around here? You know, you know what I'm saying? But they feel so free to talk to me like that. You know,
And how old were you?
I was in the 6th grade.
You got suspended?
No, this is what I'm saying. My mom and brother had just dropped me off. You know what I'm saying? We talked to the dean, the principal, and all.
Did that kid
And when
get
they walked
suspended?
out, let me finish telling the story. When they left out, the last thing they told me, John, no fight. I'm like, cool, man, I got this, no problem. She didn't get home to get her coat off before they called her, telling her what I did.
Mm-hmm.
She get back to up to that school, she ready to wring my neck. I'm like, hold up, mother, let me tell you what happened. When I told her what happened, and that dean was saying, well, we're going to suspend them both for 3 days. My mama told him, you're not going to suspend my son for 3 minutes.
Mm-hmm.
You know?
Right,
You know what I'm
right.
saying? She said he was being assaulted, and he defended himself. You know what I'm saying? She said, I don't care if you got to hold an assembly, send memos home, or whatever. My son is not going to tolerate that. And I'm not going to tell him to tolerate that. You know? So you're going to have to get these kids in line, or he'll do it for you. And I wish you would suspend him for defending himself. You know? That's how I was raised. You know what I mean? And I wouldn't advise nobody, black, blue, purple, white, or whatever. You let nobody disrespect you.
I don't-
Nobody
So
nobody assault you.
We disagree that they insulted you and then you
It wasn't
assaulted
an
them.
insult, it was an assault.
Well, again,
That's an assault. I don't
assault
know how
is
you
to
was
be
brought up.
is to
Assault
touch
is
you.
verbal. No, that's battery. An assault is when somebody's threatening you and this, and that. When
So
somebody
looking up the
touch you,
word
that's
Google.
battery. Check it out. You know, that's why they hit you with an assault and
All right.
battery. You know,
So to insult you,
it
you say
wasn't an insult. It was an assault on me.
assaulted
You know what
you.
I'm saying?
All right, and
That's
then
a
you.
verbal assault on
Okay.
me.
All right.
You know, you chose to do that. I'm gonna deal with it the way I want
All right.
to. If
So
you
now-
should get better, then hey, you got better. Watch your mouth.
All right. So again, like I said, I wouldn't tell any of my kids to do
I'll
that.
tell anyone.
And the reason why, because I want them again to be treated like they want to be treated.
But you're
Because
not being
you don't
treated
have
like
to answer.
that.
Can you let me finish?
Go ahead.
When someone says something to me, what I answer to, who are they to where it makes me all emotional? Oh, they did. It don't matter. They can call me West John Papa, nigga, Spink, cracker. They can call me whatever they want.
Talk that shit
So
from
hold on, let me
over there.
finish. But I'm just saying, who are you that it would make something rise in me? That someone nobody has control over me but me.
I understand.
Nobody can make me do nothing
I
but me.
understand.
Even if somebody hold my gun to my head, they still can't make me do anything.
Well,
So
somebody got
I
a
let
pistol on
them
you,
know,
better act right.
excuse me. So I let them know the power is within you.
Mhm.
To give someone else power over you, then they win.
I don't think I gave them power over.
Well, I'm just saying
I
how
just
I
gave
raise
their
my
ass the
kids,
power.
how where
know?
the difference is and why I disagree. This is
I
why
understand.
I disagree, because that's what I'm giving them. That's what I'm
Right.
teaching them. Now that's yours to hold. That's yours to have. If you give that to someone else, that's theirs then to tend to whatever and direct you and what. Now, of course, in a certain situation, that was in school and it was elementary, and as an adult, and that happened, it could have went way the wrong way. You know what I mean? And also, I'm raising them to where if I'm not there, if I can't go to bat for them, they got to use their own reason and mind to not be in a situation they can't get out of.
Right.
Because that was always my fear too. I'm not here to go and be the champion for them.
Right.
So I need them to not allow somebody words to make them or have them in a situation they can't get out of.
Right.
And so that's
Well,
why I say,
My
now,
advice is, if you're in striking distance and you with that bullshit,
hey, love, how are you?
hey, how you
All
doing?
right, how are
Sister?
you? You know, to go?
No, this is my first time here.
Oh.
I want to eat. What do I do?
Yes,
Just
ma'am.
sit down somewhere?
Yes, ma'am, and get somebody right with you.
Are you Chantel?
Yes, ma'am. And we're on our live podcast. That's why.
What a
Okay.
pleasure to meet you.
Thank you. Same to
So
you. What's
I'm
your
all
name?
the way, Penny.
Penny. Nice to meet
I'm
you.
all the
Penny.
way up from Oviedo. And I
Miss
just wanted
Penny.
someplace to hang out tonight. So
That
I
sounds
Googled you because you're very highly spoken of over
Uh-oh.
here.
Awesome.
Y'all hear Penny
And you
giving a
guys-
shout out.
Oh, hey. Hey, everybody. Y'all come here. Hi, everybody. This woman's going viral here. So I was in Sanford and I thought I'd stop by.
Great,
and
great.
see
Welcome,
what the
Penny.
hype was about.
Yeah.
All right.
Thank
Well,
you.
awesome. You're very welcome.
And you guys have karaoke on Thursdays?
Yes, tomorrow.
Awesome.
Hey,
will
we
be.
can
I'll be
find
back
out tonight if you want to. We
Hey.
can get a mic going.
You go get a couple cocktails. I'm on summer break.
Hey, that's what I've
thank
been
you.
telling them
You're
folks
welcome,
up at the
baby.
mail pit. How you
What's your
doing,
name,
sister?
young
I'm
man?
John.
John?
Yes,
Nice
ma'am.
to meet you. What's your role here?
My role is job. Hey, I'm just a friendly.
Talk too much.
I love your hat. Yeah.
Thank you,
I
love.
love it. All righty, you guys
Hey.
keep up the good work.
Thank
you.
World Wide
Thank you.
Way Up. Come
Appreciate
check
That's
it out.
Miss Penny from Oviedo.
That
Thank you,
is
love.
it. That's it.
Well,
They
William
came
and
through the
Knights.
door.
Right.
They'll understand that. William and Knights, look where I'm at. Y'all come check it out. Madam, thank you.
You're
I
welcome, Penny.
appreciate you.
All right,
Listen,
appreciate
just
you,
peek
Miss
in there,
Penny.
they'll know you here.
Hot dog.
Look, look.
And all the artists for sale,
Don't say.
including the owner.
Look. Hey, I do. Hey, everything got a price. I got price. Yeah. Give me an indecent proposal. Yeah, you could. They know you here. You sit down wherever you like.
Hi, young man. How you doing? I would love to meet you. Yes, sir.
She over there, look, eating her food.
I'm over here kidding.
Look, me
Right,
too.
right. Well, you know, Miss Chantel has a separate entity going. It's called Shut Up and Eat. You know, so you come in there and shove a little something in your mouth. You know, and
That's the new restaurant getting
enjoy
ready to
yourself,
be.
You know, yes, indeed.
It
It's
is.
already in play. Whether you know whether
We
the world
branding
see it
right
or
now.
know it or not, there it is. You know, featuring me.
Yes.
You know,
He's always. We're gonna have to have John picture
I'm
up in here.
always dragging
If
somebody
any of you
up
local
in there.
artists, y'all wanna, we need a picture of John up in here.
Maybe we get Sister Joyce to do that.
Hey,
You
hey.
know, Sister Joyce.
She can do it.
Yeah,
Definitely
yeah.
one right
I
there.
love her art, yeah.
Right there.
That's what that, yeah. Matter of fact, Sherry was just saying that's an incredible likeness of you.
I know. It look like I got all my teeth, everything.
Right.
Even the ones back here.
Uh-huh. Before she had them in a jar.
I don't ever put them in job. Not yet.
Just a little
I ain't got that
something.
many. Just got one or two missing, you know.
It takes Charlie to talk about the 3 teeth he got.
Yeah, I was just gonna like this one here, man. Listen, I remember I had it was snagging too. I was like, babe, look, I'll snag it too.
Right.
So I'm gonna put a gold clip, and I put a gold clip there. I was like, yeah, I'm all right.
Yeah, I'm
I
gonna
walk
tell
around
you
with a gold
something.
tooth.
I'm gonna tell you something about my old man. When he didn't have no teeth, that didn't stop nothing. He eat apples, steak, pops and biting off innocent things.
The
You
gums
know?
get tough
Hey,
after a
yeah,
while.
they do. You know, Pops wasn't no punk. Like I say, he was born in 22. You know, half white. You know, Crow, Cherokee, Blackfoot, African. You know, so he had a rough coming up. You know,
I hear
7
that.
years old. You know, so that depression hit. You know,
Yeah.
you know, I can remember telling the stories about all the times. You know, and
Okay.
and I can remember asking him. You know, something like Pops. I said,
Going
how
through
did
a hot
you do
flash.
all that racism and blah 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 blah, you know, and why didn't all you guys just be like, son, for one, we didn't have access to weapons like we do nowadays. Actually, this is about late 70s, early 80s, you know what I'm saying? I was very inquisitive. You know,
John,
and,
can we talk about something a little more positive, baby?
we talking history. We talking history.
John
If you
is
got
just
something
talking
you wanna
about
talk
straight
about,
like, I'm gonna let you talk for a minute, Dave. I'm gonna go
speak.
somewhere
There
else
you
for
go
a minute.
again. So
I gotta go check on
if you
some
leave it up
things.
to me to bring, I'm gonna talk about what I want to talk about. If y'all don't like it, turn it off. You know, but hey, I'm here to encourage our babies to stop allowing yourself to be abused by anybody, especially the oppressor's children. You know, you don't have to take that. You don't have to face them with a smile because they're not coming to you with a smile. They're not approaching you with kindness. So why would you respond to them with kindness? You know, I mean, you being presented hate, man. Come on. I have no smiles for hate, none at all. You know, when I'm faced with hate, Man, please, fuck out the light. You know, can you please not call me that? Can you please address me like I want to be? No, motherfucker, you come to that shit with me, I'm gonna bust you in your mouth. Plain and simple. If your mama and daddy didn't teach you how to respect folks, then I'm gonna show you. Plain and simple. That was my motto. You know, I refuse to be scared. I refuse to be bullied. I refuse to be ran over. You know, so hey, if I'm wrong for telling kids to stand up for themselves, then I'll be wrong forever. Because I would not advise anyone to let yourself be abused so you can get along. You know, because you'll never be able to get along because they're gonna forever think they can abuse you whenever they get ready. You know, so you can give them that example if you want to. You can find yourself struggling, even in your adult life, because you never stood up for yourself. You know, you just bowed your head and just hope it go away. And it never goes away. It don't go away. Because as much as I gave the medicine back to them, I still remember this shit like it was yesterday. So the simple fact I had to deal with, I couldn't imagine what I would feel like if I accepted that shit and did nothing about it. You know, if I allowed this little weak bastard to grab me by my arm and call and say, nigga, get off the mat to my face like that, and I just shuffle my ass off the mat, it's not gonna happen. And I don't advise you to let that happen to you or your child. You know, I mean, she's talking from a woman's point of view. I could never think like a woman. I would never feel like a woman because I'm not a woman. I'm a man. And I was raised to be a man. You understand? And I advise you to raise your boys to be the same. Stand up for yourself. Because how you gonna protect your mama and sisters if you can't protect yourself? You know? Come on, man. Let's be real about this situation. Let's be real about this situation. And if you can't, you know what I'm saying? If you can't hold these folks accountable,
No way. Shut up.
Because I cannot, I guess
No,
23,
there's no
24.
way.
What I said.
I'll say Oprah. I'll say Oprah. Hey.
excuse me, I got caught
I
up
don't
in
even
the
eat
crowd.
open, but she doesn't make me try
Running
to
this
open.
podcast as the restaurant is open,
We
and you
talk
know,
deeply about
we gotta let the
friends
public be the public.
and the sense
So you hear the beautiful voices in the background. You know, I never try to shush them. Definitely don't want to shush no woman. That's one thing I've learned as a man. You know, I let them ladies do what they do. You know, especially they're laughing and eating and socializing. Hey, it's all love. But you know, since they talk about something a little more positive, I think that's as positive as it's gonna get when you got our children, especially this day and age with this racism raising this ugly head. You know, today reminds me of the 1980s, 70s. You know what I'm saying? When I was a kid coming up and ended up around certain people, and you know they got the audacity to wear a KKK shirt to school. Like, you know, ain't nobody gonna address that shit. Are you serious? Are you serious? You know, you got enough balls to wear that shirt. I got enough balls to rip it off your ass. You understand? I advise anybody to do that. You know, you don't let nobody insult you because pretty soon they're gonna assault you. You know, then what you gonna do? Then what you gonna do? You know,
right. But it has to be
that's I can talk about this crap all day. Because I dealt with it for many years coming up. You know what I mean? I mean, from educators, you know, I ain't gonna even go into that. But it's just crazy, man. The audacity of some people, and they felt comfortable in their racist attitudes and whatnot until they ran into this black kid. You know, one son of a bitch man that caught a desk, threw the whole desk at his ass, barely missed him. You know, the principal come over, you know, because these rooms right across from the front office. They heard the rambling. This raggedy bastard went running out. You know, they come in, ask the class what happened. The class told him. You know, he kept being racist towards that kid. You know, and I was fairly new. You know, I wasn't that guy. I was never taught to accept abuse of no type from anybody. You know, especially from some from some racist individuals, you know. And I don't advise, I would never advise nobody to allow themselves to be abused by anybody, you know. And damn sure don't address that abuse with kindness. You address that abuse and, you know, with as much ferocity as you can, you know what I mean, as you can muster up. Because you best believe you don't have to deal with that individual one time. That son bitch will never come back. Not like that. You know, they'll be like a Martian landing on Earth. I come in peace. You know what I mean? That's how you do that there. But my co-host there, she got a crowd to deal with. It's a beautiful thing to see the people pile in saying they're hungry. They want to check that food out. And they're here to meet Miss Santel. She's a beautiful spirit. You know, we disagree on how a lot of things should go, but we was raised in different environments. You know what I'm saying? And plus the fact that she's a mother and I'm a father. You know, she's a woman, I'm a man. You know, but that's what makes this thing, a lot of this podcast beautiful, you know. Because she give her opinion, and I ain't got to agree with it, just like I have mine, and she ain't got to agree with it. But we're going to put them out there and let you do what you feel is best for you, you know. But I know what was best for me. What was best for me is to deal with that shit. Trust me, it generated a lot of respect, you know. And of course, those that didn't like me, you didn't like me anyway, regardless of how I was going to come. You know, because I always come with respect. You know, I always come with kindness. You know, but a lot of times people take that for weakness. And that's cool. You know, that's cool. I ain't tripping. I ain't tripping at all. Yeah, I ain't tripping at all. But it'll be all right, y'all. But let's get to something a little more positive, as you say. What is positive in this ugly ass world we dealing with today? Somebody tell me. You know, I know what's positive for me is the fact that I'm well. It's great to be alive. You know, and the future is bright. You know, the future is bright. And so is yours. You know, but you got to believe that. You got to get to that. You know, and you got to trust yourself. You know, trust yourself. People mislead you, man. People tell you what you want to hear just to set you up. You gotta be mindful. You gotta understand everybody ain't your friend. Everybody ain't your friend, and those that claim that they mean well, they don't mean well. They're just setting you up for whenever they feel it's time to do what they want to try to do to you. And you gotta let them know that you're not that individual. You know what I'm saying? You got my kindness and my love all messed up. You know? Hey, it's some cool riders. Even your sister here, cool rider. But this is what versus y'all here. You know. Hey man, where you know Cool Rider from? Anybody in here Cool Rider? We're here live. You guys come check this out. You know. I'm having a blast. It'll be all right. But yeah.
Had to come touch tables, y'all.
Right, ain't nothing wrong with that.
Yeah, nothing wrong at all.
With that,
after a while, we're gonna have a whole audience when we be doing this podcast. That sounds good.
It's definitely a good thing. But get them with some of them positive notes of yours for this next half hour. You know.
John will give it to you. I just try to balance it out. He'll give it to you for sure.
That's what I was telling them. You know what I mean? That's what I was telling you. You know, it's a yin and yang.
I need it.
It's a yin and yang thing. That's what's up. Hey.
That's all I need, baby.
Those 13
quality.
Tell 13 before you know we got 49 and 98. Hey.
That's right.
That's the beauty of multiplications. Right. You know what I'm saying? Right.
That's right.
Right.
Hey, we used to on Wednesdays, we used to have this thing called Talking Taboo on Wednesday. And Talking Taboo was everyone share your story. Because we don't look like what we've been through. You know, and rather with Talking Taboo, where we talk about sex, race, religion, politics, let's just share something, because we're, as humans, are more social than monkeys. And you know, monkeys sit there and pick the dandruff out, you know, eat your boogers, you know. I ain't gonna eat your boogers though, but that's how we end up in some of this static, some of this hatred because we allow TV
Bingo.
to dictate to us
Right.
what we don't like.
Right.
You ain't hear it from me. I ain't hear it from you. Don't have TV say what they don't like. You get out your house and move around, talk to somebody. Guarantee you, they just like you. They try to divide and conquer.
Exactly.
Exactly. They so brainwashed, aren't they?
So retarded. With today's world and how hard it is, everybody should be at peace. You got
Yeah,
everything at
yeah,
your fingertips.
yeah.
Yeah, and
You know,
it's so easy.
Fight for it,
Right.
like we used to.
right. And you got to learn how to encourage and empower each other. You know
Yes.
what I'm saying? The only way to do that is through catalog. Exactly. You know.
That's right. After all, you black too, redhead.
Yeah.
That's right. You gingers, you black.
Sherry, you got something to add to that? All power
Hey,
to the,
you know-
all power to all righteous people.
That's right.
That's
To
what I
all
say.
righteous
You
people.
know, all power to the righteous people of the world.
That's right.
You know,
And I tell people if we, as I ride the bike all the time, and I'm in that sun, SUN, I said we have the same father, right, and the same son.
Come on. Yes.
So deal with it. Let's deal with each other.
Exactly.
You know, if we having a fight, having a little argument, okay, we'll get past it. Let's agree to disagree. If you don't, and let's move on. Why it's got to be? We knock it. We say America's based on immigrancy. Now all of a sudden we can't have nobody. Well, some work I don't want to do. Trust me, if somebody want to do it, cool.
Yeah, and
Hey.
they work harder than anybody, and they're great people.
And there are adroit, meaning they're skilled with their hands and brains.
Yes.
There's some. There you go.
Yep.
And they're gonna do it in a fraction of the time.
Listen, hey, we all win in this.
Each one
Everybody
teach
has
one.
to do.
Right, everybody.
No, it's not-
Listen, this is what we doing. We talking, y'all. Hey, I agree.
Oh, banana.
Ooh, I got. Let me see. I'll ask. See if we got.
I love the last thing, okay?
It's peach cobbler. We got some peach cobbler up in it.
Oh, that's it.
She had 3 containers in the hospital.
Yeah.
She called me from the hospital. Could barely talk. She was like,
Chantel,
"Chantel, you don't know me,
all right.
but I sure need. I'm here. You don't know. I know you know me, but you just can't remember me right now." And I said, "Well, baby, what you want?" She said, "I want 3. I want a lot of crust and juice." And I was like, "Okay, baby, well, you gonna feel better." She said, "I'm gonna come down." And she come down today. I'm like, "No, I did not
She'll
know
be
that was
back,
you."
Lonnie. She just stepped outside.
She just stepped outside. And so yeah, she loved that peach cobbler. She had
I'm gonna have some.
yes.
Yeah, I just was telling him I'm gonna bring my mother and all of her friends here. They would love it here.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, this is the intent.
Yeah.
To feel like
Hey, we're gonna have a live band here Sunday.
I was just telling her Sunday,
We'll be
Yeah.
here.
5 to 9, but brunch starts at I'll be here from
You hear me
Noon.
talking about we.
we John will be here too. John will be here. He post up all day. He'll sit there, have his towel, have his soap, have his regular stuff.
Just in case it rains, you know what I'm saying? Hey.
Shower free. Not sugar free, shower free. Okay. But it is meant to be a place to just come and do you look at her. To bring a cup, to brought a Kool-Aid cup in. She definitely ready.
I gotta drink my black girl.
I ain't mad.
College.
I ain't mad with you. I'm just mad you ain't bringing enough to
What
share.
is it called again?
I come back.
Yeah, come on.
I said
Come
you
on.
you ain't bring enough to share. And your food,
Well,
you got
it's
your
a little,
food.
it's a little bit pricey. So I'm
To go.
sorry, what you say? I'd like to stay with you if you'd have me.
Oh,
Thank you,
okay.
sir. So I'm drinking my black girl vitamin.
She got a black girl vitamin. Y'all, I'm
Look at
scooting
that
over.
hair. Look at these nails. Look at my attitude. So if you guys aren't hip, I'm not endorsing it because I'm endorsing it, but I'm not being paid.
What
If you're
what
not
are you
hip,
endorsing?
it's called BGV.
Okay.
So it's black girl vitamins. They have CMOS, they have collagen, they have multivitamins. And I say that to say that
Oh, there ain't vodka over there?
That too. A little bit of that too. Mixed with the black girl vitamin collagen. But I said that.
There ain't nothing but that damn orange juice.
No.
Let
Let me bring it back around. It dissolves in anything. It's the point I'm making.
In other words, a
So,
screwdriver.
yes. It's in my screwdriver.
Boy, this thing went all everywhere, right? I got you.
You got to drink your collagen. If I had to mix it in my screwdriver, so be
So
it.
be it. Right.
So be it.
As long as you get it
So
in.
I said that to say I teach
As
fitness
long as
classes.
you get it in.
I teach fitness classes,
Okay.
and I just.
You
said
gonna
that to
host
say-
one here? We can do it on Monday and Tuesday.
I
Move the
was
furniture.
gonna wait till the camera went off to tell you, man, you can partner.
So we can do some line classes,
Let's do
line
it.
dance
Let's do
classes.
Hey.
So
Come on, look, we
There
had
you
a
go.
drummer.
I
I got an
love
African
it.
drum.
yes,
Listen, let's do it.
health,
It
fitness,
don't
and
cost
wealth.
nothing. Let's go.
Thank you. We got to take care of our mental
Yes.
and physical health.
Yes.
You see how
So-
things come together through communication?
I
That's
take
right.
it. And
We
then
together and we're stronger together.
each one teach one, healthy
That's
mind,
right.
body, spirit, and soul.
That's right.
And that's it. So with that being said, I'd like to partner with you a little bit later. I'm an
Yes.
educator and an ed consultant. And I taught at Seminole High School for about 13, 14 years.
Wow.
Yes, I've taken my
So you
show
might
on the
know
road.
some of her children. When did you do that?
I do. And a lot of your
Oh, okay.
kids, a
I
lot of
bet.
your kids are passing that state standardized test because of individuals like myself. I understand. So there are 5 levels, and I understand each level. If your kid's not at a level 3, they're not at grade level. They're not going to graduate at the 10th grade level, or they're not at a level 3. So I do hope to partner with you down the road to each one teach one, pass the
that's right.
information,
That's right.
because
We
unfortunately,
in partnership right now. What
that's
you
it.
talking
I
about?
saw a lot of students, they don't understand this intangible thing we call education.
Yeah.
But once you
Because we're
understand,
miseducated.
that's exactly right. The miseducation,
Oh,
the miseducation, the perfect penny, and just the education
the
system.
perfect penny.
Perfect
That's
penny.
I
it.
love it. penny.
Precocious. I'm sorry, precocious.
Precocious.
The perfect precocious.
Supercalifragilisticexpialidocious. If you say it loud enough, you'll always sound.
atrocious.
It's precocious.
Oh, I didn't know.
If you say it loud enough, you'll always sound.
Nocious.
Precocious.
Did I just say precocious?
You see?
Third time's a
Hey,
charm.
This is why I do
Hey,
karaoke.
Hey, now you wonder why the children had such a hard time.
Hey, it rhymed.
Show me it. That's it. Long as we got the rhyme
Hey,
out.
We got the rhyme.
you-
I got the
hey,
right amount of syllables. We
Hey,
doing
if
it.
you
Amen.
say it again, she gonna
Amen.
say, pick your noses.
Where can I see this podcast if I want to watch this or run it back?
On Facebook, on my YouTube, on Instagram.
What's
we
the
got
Facebook page that I can
Shut
look
Up
at?
and Ride Show. Oh,
Oh.
Chantel Williams. Instagram. Yeah, we'll make sure you got it,
Okay.
girl.
Yeah, I just want to make sure anybody that's new like myself, you know
Can
where
see
to get
Penny.
in, where you
That's
fit
right.
in.
That's
You
right.
actually,
Got you.
because I would have been at home.
You
Well,
came
actually,
in. You
I'm-
came in here at home.
God
Right.
sent me.
Okay, there it is. Came
God.
in. Did she come in here at home? Okay.
God sent me.
Everybody knew she was here.
Came
He
right
said,
in
"Get
and
in
jumped
where you
in.
fit in." He
Came right
sent
in
me.
and jumped
Right.
in on our
That's it.
podcast,
And
Miss
he ain't
Penny.
complained not one
Yeah.
You
time.
know,
Because again, as I said, you guys are trending on social media.
are we?
Well, I'm on Facebook. I'm
Right.
old school. I'm not over yet to X, or I'm not over to Twitter yet, if that's what it's
Right,
called.
right.
It's okay.
I just
All
got
I
rid of
know
my
is Facebook
beeper.
and YouTube. Myself,
Yeah,
I call
so-
it book face.
Yeah,
Right.
whatever it is. Oh, girl.
Right.
But you were trending, and
That's
there's a young lady online. She's called the Queen of Orlando,
Mhm.
and she goes places and she films herself.
Mhm.
And this was the next place that she said she was going to hit up, where I want to beat her to the punch.
Ooh, that's what I'm
Okay.
talking about. I got to make sure we on point then.
Just
say
saying.
Penny, you
Yeah,
get your
I want
two
to be.
cents
Yeah,
in,
I want to get my 2 cents
That's
in.
right. We got it.
And this is it. And then
Right on, right
the
on.
residents of Sanford speak so highly of you. Very,
Beautiful.
very highly of you.
Hey, Penny,
That's
I'm gonna tell
beautiful,
you,
Penny.
I moved to this town July 1st of 23, right?
Okay,
Going on 2
couple years.
And me and my brother, as soon as we got through moving, we was hungry, you know. So we come out, we driving down the street, and I see her spot, you know, because it's the first
This hot
spot you
honey.
hit.
We saw this hot
You know,
honey
right,
standing
right.
outside.
So-
I'm just keeping up
And
with
I
the story.
just pulled up in the back, and there was a nice looking young lady getting out the car. You know, she's like, "Oh, this is a wonderful spot." Come to find out, she was the entertainment. You know what I mean?
For the evening.
Yeah.
Okay.
So we was like, "Wow."
They ain't
so we
left
coming
yet.
here. This been my home.
Why would you?
Right,
Like,
right.
seriously,
There you go. That's
like,
exactly
why
what I
would you?
said. Why would I
If
go
If you
this
meet the
far?
VIP, why would you leave?
Exactly. Exactly.
You know what I mean? If you walk in a restaurant and the VIP
Yeah.
sitting there and welcomes you in, why would you leave, sir?
Yeah.
Y'all,
After
we are
about
what
6
we
months,
make
the
it.
kids got to talk about, you act like we adopted you. I said, no, I adopted y'all.
Right, we all here.
Right,
And we
right,
always want to go a place
Right.
where we feel celebrated, not tolerated.
Tolerated.
Right,
When you're
right,
celebrating.
I got that right.
Yeah.
Right. Not
I love
want to
it.
come celebrated, not tolerated.
I
We
love
glad you came in here. It's a lot of doors you walk past and you came in here. So we
Why would I
appreciate it.
not? Again,
There you go.
like just the outside ambiance, the lights, the tables, the decorative elements of it, the flowers. It pulls you in.
It pulls you in.
I can't. So I'm gonna pull my little posse, my little 3-man Cheerio posse.
That's right. That's all we need.
That's it.
Hey,
Because in the
two or
word
more
of
gathered, right?
Tupac, I'm seldom in the company of. Let's just say it rhymes with witches. That's what Tupac said. He said, "I'm seldom in the company of witches."
That's right. And that's right.
And if
That's
you
right.
go with God, that's all you need. Yes, you stay with the Lord.
Take
Chantel,
love.
thank you. My chicken wangs are
Thank
here.
you. All right, go get your chicken
enjoy.
wing.
Thank you, sis. I'll be back.
She done let her
All
hair
right, Miss
down.
Penny. Right. That's a beautiful thing. That's a beautiful thing. But yeah.
You want a ranch or blue cheese? Okay. No, she got. No, I got it, Penny. Penny, sit down. Sit down.
But hey, that's the atmosphere you get when you come down to Chantel just until 501, 503. This is north or the south. I think this is South Sanford Avenue. Anyway, you can't miss it. It's on the corner of 5th and Sanford, downtown Sanford, Florida. You know, beautiful spot, beautiful folks. You know, I can't help but love them up, you know. And Sunday, hey, we got the reggae band back. The Blazing Posse, baby. It's been a minute. Featuring our third hostess that I guess she couldn't make it tonight. She couldn't join us via feed. But Miss Cindy, you know, she's a major figure in the Blazing Posse right now. You know, she's in demand for vocals, you know. And come on out, y'all. Come check us out. You know, come check us out. But we got about a good 15, 20 minutes maybe later left on this podcast here. And I'm gonna try to leave it to Chantel to give her last spiel for the night. But y'all notice it got a little quiet. That's because people licking their fingers and whatnot around this joint. You know, they ain't got much to say. They ain't got much to say no more. Check them out.
Okay, look.
There you go. Licking spoons. Miss Pretty got her waves. Hey, can't tell her nothing. Can't tell her nothing right now.
Hey, scrape in the corner.
Right on. Yeah, but what's your name, young lady?
What, sir?
On the little sister over there in the corner. What's your name?
Denise?
Lanice. There you go. I got a daughter named Kudnies.
Denise?
Yeah, Kudnies with the K. Right. Yeah. Lanice. Right on, Lanice. Welcome. Huh? I can't hear you, baby. Oh, come on. Get your face on her. Come on, we're introducing folks tonight.
Oh, Lord.
Take your time, Miss Lanice.
Oh, Lord. Here I am.
Hey, there she go. Beautiful smile and all. Tell us a little something about yourself, young lady.
Oh, man. Well, I'm Denise. And I'm the young lady
Is
she was
that
speaking about.
D or L?
D.
Denise, my bad.
Yes, Denise.
Yeah.
You know? But I was the young lady that Ms. Chantel was talking about. I was so praising God to be able to be here because right here on Sanford Avenue, you know what I'm saying? Hey, it's a great thing to have a black owned business. You know what I'm saying? And we gotta support each other. You got to support what you want to keep. And hey, this right here we gotta keep for sure. Okay. But anyway, sickle cell anemia battles with me.
Right.
I refuse to say it the other way around because
One more time.
sickle cell anemia battles with me
Right.
is not the other way around. Okay?
Hump there.
Hey,
Take it
come on.
up there.
I won't leave you alone.
Yes,
No, I
ma'am.
won't leave you
Go
alone.
ahead, do
We
your
be like
thing.
that, right? We here,
Hey.
you know? So,
Hey, I'm in line for a heart transplant myself. You know
what?
what I mean? I'm going through the Mayo evaluation and everything. Yeah, I'm on my last two. I got two more appointments Monday, and they're sitting into the evaluation stage
To
of the
God be
team.
all
And
the
yes,
glory.
indeed, you know, so in about 3 months, I expect to get to go ahead. And
Mm.
it's all gravy, baby.
That's right.
Yes, indeed. It's
Expectation.
all
Don't
gravy.
talk about
Yes, indeed.
expectation.
You
It's
said
coming.
that's what you and that sickle cell. I
Mm-hmm.
got a brother that's dealing with the same thing in Houston,
Oh,
and you know, you've been fighting it a long time, so you
that's right.
can live a long life with it.
Oh, that's
You
right.
know what I'm saying? Just like you said, you ain't fighting it,
Hey,
it's fighting you.
come on.
You
That's
know
why I
what I
said,
mean?
you know, and
So
I
you do
just got
your
out the
thing, you're gonna
hospital.
be all right, sister.
Thank you.
You're gonna be all right.
And I just
Bless you,
got the
bless you,
hospital
Jesus.
yesterday.
Bless you.
You hear me, y'all?
Yes, ma'am.
So I have been
Yes,
eating. I
ma'am.
said, listen, I need to get up. You know, so our sister that was just
Put
on
your
here
little tender
video.
loving care in your
What?
belly,
I
huh?
needed it. You know what I'm saying? I said I ain't eat all day,
That's
so I'm
what's
going to
happening.
we gonna give a piece. They gonna get me right because I just got the hospital yesterday. I was there for 11 days. It
Wow.
took 3 units of blood, 3 bags of blood for them to get everything right and to bring me back around. You know,
Right.
but to God be all the glory to y'all out there that's donating. Y'all please continue to donate. Y'all are saving lives like ours. You know what I mean?
Right.
When we need it, you know what I mean, the most.
And we
So
need our blood because we can only, you know what I'm saying, if you're owed anything, all you can receive is an owed anything. You
that's
know
who,
what I
and I'm
mean?
O positive.
We can feed the world, but the world can't feed us.
Come on, say it
You know,
again
so we
now.
got to feed each other.
That's right.
So, black folks, we need y'all to get out there and donate that plasma. You
Please,
know, donate
please,
that plasma.
please.
Because people need it. You know. We
Amen.
can't get A or B or none of that. You know what I mean?
None of
Gotta
that.
be zero.
Got to
O.
be O positive
O
or
stand
O
for
negative.
original man.
Come on.
So we gotta have it. You know what I'm saying? It's just the facts, man. You know, it's just the facts.
Be original. You know what I'm
It's
saying?
just the facts. You know,
You
we are
hear
the
me?
children of this earth. You know, and no
God be
matter how
all.
much they come at us, they can't extinguish us.
No, never that.
We can
No,
only
we
do it to ourselves. You know what I mean?
we not going nowhere. Okay, you hear me? So I came to get me some good loving on the inside. Got my what did I get today? Fish and grits. You know, y'all. I was
Some grits
so
off the chain.
man, look at here, and they still they don't even get cold quick.
Hey, little did you know, I'm learning how to make them for myself at home. I almost got it. I almost got it.
And you got to laugh.
Right. It's
So you
still a
got
sister
to.
recipe. You know what I mean?
You got
Man,
to, you know.
yeah.
But I'm just so grateful. Like y'all been, when I walked in, I seen what y'all were speaking about and heard you. And I mean, I really love the points that y'all were hitting, you know, hitting on, however, because it's very important.
Yeah, some folks say I come across a little abrasive, but hey, we living in an abrasive world.
Uh-huh.
You know what I mean?
You better know what
it's
to say
hard
with
to,
your chest.
you know what I'm saying? And it's hard to sand a rough edge with a smooth paper. You know what I mean? It just ain't
Come
gonna
on
happen.
now, never,
You know, it's not gonna happen. So,
never that,
hey,
never
that's
that.
all I'm saying. I was raised to deal with it straight on. You know what I mean?
You have to.
And if you come to me with that bull crap, why should I hand you something sugar coated? You know what I mean?
Hey, you gotta give respect to give it.
Exactly. Don't go like
Got
that.
to.
Not here. You know, I understand what the sister's saying, you know, because she's a mother, you know, and like I say, she's a female, she's a lady. Men and women deal with things differently, you know what I mean?
And then you know, even on that though, because being that we live in a world now where our black people are getting shot up, you know, more than anything, and with that type of approach that she's coming from, you know, it's more of a thing to save their life in a sense, you know, because somebody meeting you with that hostility or just whatever, you know, yeah, okay, yeah, you gotta give respect to get it, but at the same time, you gotta be smart with it because if it's gonna get you in a situation where you get locked up or even maybe killed, you gotta understand, you know what I'm saying?
And that's how my pops put it to me when I asked him, you know, like I said, my pops was born in 1922. His daddy was white, you know, my pops was African or black, you know what I mean? So he grew up with the worst of both ends. You know, black people didn't like him because he's light, white folks didn't like him because
he got a
black.
little color, you know what I'm saying? Right, yeah.
And my granddaddy, he always told us a story about how my grandfather was disowned because his family wanted him to get rid of his black babies. And my grandfather refused to do so. You know, we always thought that my grandfather was just a light, bright black man, you know, until his funeral, when all the white folks showed up looking just like him. You know what I'm saying? And my dad was like, I've been telling y'all all your life your granddaddy was white. You know what I mean? We just thought
But
he
you
was
ain't
joking.
believe
You
it.
know what I'm saying? Right? We just thought he was, he was just poking fun at his daddy,
Right.
But hey, man, that's the world we're in. And it ain't always beautiful. Matter of fact, it's
No.
80% ugly.
Mhm.
So you got to take that 20% of that love, and you
Absolutely.
got to apply it to yourself, first of all.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean?
Come on
You
now.
got to apply it to yourself, and you got to love yourself enough to protect yourself. But back to what I was going to say, I had asked my pops, I'm like, man, how did y'all, tolerate blah, blah, this, and that. And he was telling me, he said, son, somebody had to with strain, you know what I'm saying, from getting out there into a fight, especially when you're going into a gunfight with skin. You know what I mean?
Come on now.
Back then we wasn't privy to the weapons. You know what I'm saying? We wasn't privy to the weapons. And people look and they hear the story and they be like, oh, it was just a bunch of scared black folks. No, somebody had to toe the line, you know what I'm saying, to try to teach the children to be strong enough to fight with your mind, and at the same time be strong enough to fight physically, because every time you try to, not every time, because nothing is 100%, but most of the time when you try to deal with hatred with kindness, they take that kindness for weakness.
Yes, they do.
And sooner or later, that verbal assault is going to turn into physical assault.
Exactly.
You know what I mean? And that's what I'm trying to get kids to understand. You don't want to get to that. Because 9 out of 10 times a bully don't want to get punched in the mouth. You know what I mean? So you got somebody trying to bully you in the grade, you punch that mouse in the mouth. I guarantee you won't have to deal with that too many times, because the word gonna get spread. You know what I'm saying?
Oh yeah,
Man,
that you ain't no way.
hey, he's not the one. That's all I'm saying. Don't allow yourself to be abused and mistreated by no one for no reason.
Yeah.
Especially if you had the ability and wherewithal to defend yourself. You know what I mean? You gotta defend yourself.
I always said that. That's funny because I was one of those people, and I'd be like, man, I wonder if I'd be able to handle that. You know what I'm saying? Like back in the day, man, and I would do this, I would do that, this, that. But then I'm like really looking at the situation where we didn't have the weapons, we didn't have the means to do that. You know what I'm saying? You had responsibilities. If you act on something, then okay, your family gonna get it too. Whoever, right? So it's just like that's what I had to, really consider looking at that, But another topic that you just said, self-love. That's an area that I'm nourishing right now for myself, because being dealing with sickle cell all your life and so long, and dealing with pain every day, it gets to a point where it's like, okay, well, maybe I deserve the pain, or maybe say this is just what it is. Your mind play a lot of tricks on you, and then it's like you say, oh, I want to go and do this, I want to go do that, but then it's like, okay, my body just down. You know what I mean? Like the same situation might defeat traveler. You know what I mean? I was getting ready to go to procedure the next day. I was NPO at the time, nothing by mouth. But I had to really tell myself, say, okay, this is what I want. You know what I mean? So hey, I'm gonna sit it right there where I got this procedure. I'm gonna tear it down. You know what I'm saying? Because that's gonna be my congratulations to me that we made through the surgery. So it's just like those types of things.
You gotta treat yourself.
To rest, to be able to just what self-love means, I'm finding that at this point.
That's a beautiful thing, ain't it?
Man, yes.
Beautiful thing,
Yes.
And when you dealing with the love of self, that's when God is in you. You ain't gotta look nowhere else for him. You know what I mean? A lot of folks that run to churches, that's why they never find them, because you're looking for them in somebody else. And that preacher and that deacon, church mother, whatever you want to call these folks. God ain't there. He's right here in you.
That's right.
You gotta find him. You know what I'm saying? You
for
gotta
yourself.
Touch it for yourself. And the best way to move with God is to move in love.
Yes.
I speak a lot to folks about defending themselves. A lot of folks that are passive say I'm being overly aggressive or whatever. But how can you love yourself when you're allowing yourself to be abused, to be misused? You know what I mean? That's not the love of self. That's not the love of self. You gotta protect yourself. You know what I mean? You gotta love yourself enough to fight through the pain of fighting. You know, you ain't gonna win every fight,
No,
but I guarantee you, if you stand up for yourself, you ain't gonna have to fight that battle again.
but
No
were you
time
speaking
soon.
of just so? But are you speaking from just a physical standpoint of
From
a?
both physically, mentally,
Okay, so
spiritually,
just
you know what
all
I'm
the way
saying?
stand up for yourself.
It's
I got you.
always a
All the
battle.
way around.
It's
Okay, I agree
always
with
a
that.
battle. It's not
Yeah.
always pretty, you
No,
know. It's
absolutely
not
not.
always pretty, you know. But
Absolutely
hey,
not. But that
you know,
reward though, that
oh yeah,
blessing though,
it's a
you know what I
beautiful
mean?
thing. It's
Hey,
a beautiful thing to
it's
have
on
that
the other
courage,
side.
to have that courage, and to have that empowerment, you know. And like
Yes.
if you check out my Facebook statement, you know, my mission in life is to encourage and empower people. You know what I mean? Encourage you enough to stand up for yourself and empower you with the coping skills to do so. You know, and if you know everybody don't deal with things the way I deal with it, that's not a bad thing. But that don't mean I'm wrong either.
No,
You know what I'm
exactly.
saying?
Exactly.
You
Yeah.
know, but hey,
Yeah.
to each his own. But at the same time, you gotta learn how to hold your own. Because you know,
Because
like
you'll
what my
get ran
parents would
over.
always tell us, we ain't gonna always be here.
No,
You
not.
know,
No, not.
and you know, and like I lost my mom at 23. I
Oh
thank
no,
God
I'm
I
so
wasn't
sorry.
13 or 3. You
Right.
know what I mean?
Right.
You
Right.
know, and I lost my
Yeah, I'm
pop
so sorry
seven
to hear
years
that.
later. Yeah, but hey, that's
Sorry to
life.
hear that. Yeah.
That's life. You know what I'm saying? I'm the youngest of 12. So,
Oh
I
wow.
mean, man, you know,
Yeah, you was the baby.
they left a lot of footprints on this planet. You know what I mean?
Man, shoot.
And it's a beautiful thing. You know, nobody lives forever. And for us being human, you know, as humans, we are selfish. It doesn't matter if a person lives to be 53 or 103. We still don't want to see them go. You know
Right.
what I mean?
Yes, we
We
are
still
very
don't want to see
selfish.
them go. So, you know,
Yeah.
but if you know and you learn and you've been taught that in love and life is something you cherish because it's not going to always be there in the physical form.
Right.
But if you got it embedded in you, my
Right.
parents they never left it.
Yes,
They
ma'am.
just left this planet physically. You know
Mm-hmm.
what I'm saying? But they still
But
in
what
me
they taught you, it's
physically.
still in you. That's
And
what's there.
I can't help but live by it
Mm-hmm.
and abide by it. You
Right.
know, it's one of the best things, one of the things they always told me, don't let nobody run over you.
Nope.
You know, never be nobody's peon or role, as my mom used to say, because I grew up in the city of Chicago. You know, that's what we call
Hard
folks that
times.
was easily misled. They were broke, you know what I'm saying?
Man.
And we didn't grow up with hard times. You know what I'm saying? Like my brother Jerry, you know, once my pops died, he took over taking care of everything. And he learned that my old man never made over $30,000. You know, but he retired in '78, so I guess $30,000
Was a
wasn't
lot
a good
back
penny
then.
back then. You know
Yeah.
what I mean?
Yeah.
But look at all the mouths he fed.
My
They
God.
fed with that little money his mom, you know what I'm saying? She would make it as a what they call a practical nurse. You know what I'm saying?
Mm-hmm.
And hey man,
Wow.
that's why I tell people,
Wow.
you know, if you're living under love and discipline and guidance, you know what I mean?
Wow.
You can
Wow.
deal with a lot of strides. You know what I'm saying? So you talking to dealing with children and like, you know, I got nieces and nephews my age. You know what I'm saying? Or in my age range, and they was always at the house, always, because
So you
God bring
close.
folks to feed. You know what I mean?
Close.
You know, and it's just, you know, I wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yeah.
Wouldn't trade it for the world.
Yes.
You know what I mean?
That's
So,
beautiful.
hey, so if
Because
I'm
it
trying
makes you who
to,
you are.
you know what I'm saying, right? You know, so I just encourage folks, man. That, hey, man, don't let
Yeah.
nobody belittle you. All that shit people try to project on you, it's
Yeah.
because that's how they feel about themselves. You know what I'm saying?
Wow.
When you
Wow.
find people trying to down folks all the time or talk about people or degrade folks,
Yeah.
that's because that's how they're feeling inside. That's all they can
Does
get out.
misery
Is
love
that hey,
company?
misery, right? You know what I'm
Ain't
saying? So you
miserable.
move in love.
Yeah.
You know, if you can move in love, when you gotta deal with that hate and shit the way you want to, you're doing it in all righteous endeavor.
Mm-hmm.
You know what I mean?
Because do you see it as okay? Because when it comes to like how I look at it, because like when it comes to religion and all that stuff, it's a lot. You know what I mean? We're going to the church and stuff like that. Yeah, it's like preaching the word, however, but is it really showing you how to bring it out of yourself? You know what I mean? And really, because I really feel like God really.
I knew better than wear white hair.
But you got a hole in your lip, brother.
Oh, y'all loved it?
Yeah, we're leaving.
Okay.
We're back.
All right,
Sunday.
sister,
On
be good.
Sunday.
All right
Got
now.
your
All
vanilla
right.
ice cream.
All right. Oh, yeah.
I'll see y'all Sunday. First round on me.
Yeah, so you said it.
But yeah, so like when it comes down to it, it's like Jesus came down here to show us the way of how to do this thing and who is within us. You're supposed to activate that within you. You know what I'm saying? It's like, okay, you have this power. The same thing as what Jesus having healing. You have the power to be that entity still. You know what I'm saying?
Right,
And
right.
until you can really know that and really go deep within yourself and your heart and within yourself, deal with those problems, deal with those doubts and those flaws that you have that makes you not like yourself or you battle or trigger. I'm dealing with it myself too. You know, and it's gonna be round after round. It's gonna keep trying you, yeah, sure enough. But you got to be able to pass that round, no matter how many times it come back around to you. You know,
Right.
but that just something that I have not really gotten from church, like just really how
Because
to
you got to
do
get
it.
it from in you.
Mhm.
You got to get it from in you. There. You
Experience.
know, you got to get it from in you. You got to allow that third eye to open up. Or you embrace that inner love and inner peace. You feel that you don't need all these outside entities in order to build yourself up. Because if you ask me, you know what I mean, I don't want to, rain on nobody because they, whatever they believe.
Yes.
But I've always told folks, once my third eye opened up, I'm like, hey, I'm the youngest of 12. I ain't never had to go to my brother or sister to speak to my mother or father. And your religion is teaching you that you got to go to Jesus, who is supposed to be your brother, and you know what I'm saying, under God.
Come on.
So a lot of people got it mixed up in my book by saying Jesus is God. He's not God.
He tells us that.
Right.
He tells that
exactly.
to
That's
worship
why I
the
say
Father.
it's so hypocritical.
Yes.
You read this shit, but then you want to project it to me to be something else. When it clearly says in this word, in the word that you go
God.
supposed to go by.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And it's just a lot of hypocrisy.
Yes.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes. And
to me,
misguided and misleading.
Right. And to me, it's a setup. Is all these religions because when they withstood knowledge from us on this continent, you know what I'm saying? They kept you from reading, kept you from your language, blah blah blah. You know what I'm saying? And then the first thing they had you when they allowed you to read was what? Their Bible. You know what I mean? Which tell you to obey your earthly master and all this other bullshit. Come on, man.
Gotcha.
That ain't supervised
To mine.
legacy, man. Exactly.
You know what? That's like the book of Eli. I love that movie so much. The book of Eli with Denzel Washington. When he held on to that book and how everybody wanted it, and that man really wanted to run that little city, that little town, however, because he's seen the power in it. Oh, they will worship me. They were this, they were that, because I mean it to be something new and different to them. And then to see at the end of that movie, it was never nothing in the book at all. You know, at the end, he said and told somebody, "Now write this down," and he memorized the whole Bible. And had somebody writing it out. That's what it is and what it means to really have it in your
Interpret
heart.
it for yourself.
You know what I'm saying? Have it
Tell you what's what.
and learn
You gotta get it
it.
for yourself.
Yes.
You gotta get it for yourself.
But I love you guys.
Hey,
You know
on
what I'm
that note,
saying?
we're gonna end this podcast. You know what I mean? It's a great.
Let me
thank
get
you.
Miss Chantel
Thank
back.
you, Mr. Denise, for coming on and sharing
No
your
problem.
knowledge, your story,
No problem.
your testimony. We
No
love
problem.
you.
Love
You know what I'm
too.
saying? We just met you, sister.
Yeah.
God bless you. It's gonna be all right.
Hey, you
Yes,
gonna be
it is.
just fine too.
Oh, no doubt. I
You hear me?
already said it's
Listen,
all right.
I
I've been
already-
saying
hey,
that for 5 years.
and
It's
that's all
already
it
all
takes.
right.
You know what I'm saying?
Yes, indeed.
And you send it out before you, and this sure shall be. You hear
Yes,
me?
indeed. Yes, indeed.
Yes. Oh,
Hey, sisters.
wait, getting ready
You
to
want to
end.
come close this up real
Let's
quick?
close it up.
Let's close this up real quick.
Well, stay right there.
Sister Pam, you got something you want to add before we shut it down?
Stay in the bunch.
No, stay on in the
I mean, I'm sorry, Miss Penny, my bad. I called her Pam.
Come on over here.
Come on, y'all, let's squeeze in.
Come on over here.
Hey, you
Sarah,
guys want to
got
close
something
this
to
up
say?
in here
Come
too?
on in too, young lady.
Come on.
Come on.
What you mean?
All right, we're going the other way.
Come on over here.
Get in
Come on
there.
over here, John.
That's what I like. Hold that
Let's
down.
get over here.
Listen.
We gonna fit. Hey, there we go.
There we go.
You done got a hat.
There
and
it is.
everything. Y'all, we in here.
Yeah.
We shutting up, y'all, and we riding. meaning we're quieting down our brain and we're using our heart.
Open up your
Amen.
heart.
All right.
Amen.
That means move out your own way.
There you
Let's go.
Move in love. Move in
That's
love.
right. Move in love.
Move in
Got
love.
Penny, John. Come on.
Denise,
Denise.
Jimmy,
Chantel.
Sherry.
Shit. We
Hey.
all here, y'all.
Peace and love, y'all.
Peace and love. Till next time. Tune in. Matter of fact, come tomorrow.
Come
Bye.
tomorrow.
Come to Chantel's tomorrow.
Karaoke.
All
Hey,
weekend.
And we having a blast.
They
Okay.
convinced me I could sing, so hey.
And he
Oh,
sure say he
buddy.
can. Everybody can sing. Just don't compare to nobody.
Hey.
Right.
I love it.
Right, there you go. You understand.
That's your way. You know what I'm saying?
That's right.
That's
How you
your
sound
way.
is your sound.
That's your
Right,
you
man.
know what I'm saying?
Don't
You got-
compare it to me.
I don't sound like Chantel.
Wait a
I
minute.
sound like
Wait a
Chantel.
minute. I just come up with an epiphany.
What's
Go
up?
ahead.
Maybe we can sing Lisa Lisa all cried out. You can be full force, I'll be Lisa Lisa.
There it is.
Let's do it.
All
Let's do it.
Full force, get busy one time.
Hey,
Every time I try to hit them with some 80 shit, they tell me, John, you on some old bullshit. You know,
Look,
hey.
John be on his own thing.
we gotta stay
It's
where we
concert.
feel
Hey,
safe.
man, they try
Look,
to treat me
I'm gonna
like
start
I'm Prince.
karaoke right now.
Okay,
Yeah,
let's
that's what
get
I'm
it.
talking about. Find the mic. Let's get some warm up in. Let's go.
Hey, y'all already know it. Come
Bye,
on
y'all.
home.
You
Come
look
on
good for that
home. Come
hat.
get some good eats.
Handsome hump.
Thank you, love. Thank you. Hey, it's a beautiful day to be.